don't want them coming back for this. So they had it yesterday at Foxbridge Golf Course. It was just jam-packed. People outside, people inside. And his daughter, Angela, what a fine tribute when she talked about her father. And then my brother Bill's daughter, my niece, Katie, spoke on behalf of the Ballinger family. It was just a wonderful, wonderful celebration to really, the Woods family's been here forever in Uxbridge, and Jimmy Woods was a fine person. On another note, about a year ago, I was asked to present the Mark Slater Award at the high school, and it went to a young lady called Carly Higgins. Well, Carly Higgins has been selected on the Ontario team in a Canadian competition out in Edmonton. And she's culinary, she's in baking. And this lady that, when I presented the Mark Slater Award, this young girl was, it was for leadership, it was for academic, it was her involvement in the community, and it was for her skills. So I made a phone call this morning to see how she made out in the competition, and the results aren't in yet, but I may have them shortly. So that's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bryan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of quick points. Coming up this weekend is the Wixons Block Party on Saturday. We also have the Mental Health Walk coming up this weekend in the Countryside Preserve. As well, we have an election coming up on June the 7th, so let's make sure everybody gets out and votes for that one. And on a personal note, prom is this week. So Thursday night will be very busy at my house.
You graduated.
And on another note, I had to finally spend my first amount of money to Queens this morning, Gordon. So I'm hearing it's the beginning of lots to go. Anyways, thank you.
Councillor Beach.
Thank you, Your Worship. It was a busy week. The Uxbridge Youth Theatre presented high school musical. I went to it Friday night. It was amazing. The talent that we have here in the youth, what they were able to perform was amazing. So, like, right from our youth to our seniors, we have amazing talent. Also, we had the Uxbridge Scott Historical AGM at the museum, and then we followed by looking at the new exhibit that's opened there, Voices Counted, the suffragette exhibit. You really need to go see it. It's wonderful. And excuse me, the home tour, well attended for the United Church, and also excuse me, the coming this weekend we have the Free Family Board game night put on by the Healthy Kids. Come out with your family, it will be amazing. And also on Sunday is the Siloam United Church service once a year, and I guess the Zephyr Community Garage Sale is coming up too.
This weekend? This
weekend on the 9th. So, and the other things that were mentioned. Anyways, have a great week.
Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, you took away my list, but anyway, I won't repeat what it's already been said. Just to add, we have a public planning meeting here tonight at 7 p.m. So if you are excited about right now, you can come back at 7 o'clock again tonight. So game starts at 8. So it's going to be the world's fastest planning meeting. So no, I'm just kidding. So just a reminder of that. I guess we all heard in the news over the weekend of the shootings in Pickering. It was a little unnerving when I heard that. We always think about, something happening in the States, but when it happens close to home, it kind of makes you wonder. I know DRPS is doing a great job on the investigation, and hopefully they'll solve that pretty soon. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hyatt. Just a couple quick items. On Saturday, Councillor Beach and I attended the opening of Kimberly Kellen Fashions. She's got a great spot just on top of the Tim Mill, so wonderful stuff, and a great new business in town. I want to wish Ingrid Svelness happy birthday. Happy belated. It was her birthday yesterday. She's 40 again. But And also today is Catalina's birthday, as a matter of fact, so when you see her today, please wish her happy birthday. And Mike McDonald just dropped this off. Mike, hope you don't mind, I'll read it here, okay, so everybody can see it. This is addressed to the Township of Uxbridge, and it's on behalf of the Lieutenant Colonel Sharp Statue Unveiling Committee. I would like to sincerely thank, sorry, you write like a doctor, but a lot better than me, Mike, or Tish, I guess. We'd like to sincerely thank you for all your support, financially and in kind, and encouragement as we collectively honor the legacy of Sam Sharp in Uxbridge. Your support with logistics, with the road closures downtown at the museum, the banners, porta potties, downtown and museum cleanup, much appreciated on helping us make things run smoothly and safely. Thanks for your representation and participation in the parade and reception, and thanks to Pat for speaking at our ceremony. Thanks for playing such an important role in honoring Sam together as a community. Sincerely, Tish McDonald, the Sam Sharp Committee. Thank you. Please tell her thank you for us, Mike. Great. Alrighty, thank you. We'll move on. The first delegation is our Uxbridge Firefighter Association. I guess it's Mike and Jonathan. Both of you coming up? Just Mike? Oh, it's just Mike. Okay. Welcome, Mike. Just hit that gray button.
There we go.
You're good.
Okay, thank you very much, Your Worship. Hello, members of Uxbridge Council and Mayor. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you this morning. My name is Mike McDonald, also known as Tish McDonald's husband. I am a member of the Uxbridge Fire Department and president of the Firefighters Association. It's in my role as president of the association that I'm here today, and I'm joined by fellow firefighters Colin Clark, Jonathan Britton, and Chief Alexander. The reason for our being here today can be summed up by 3 points. 1, to make you aware of our desire to create a firefighter memorial on the grounds of the new fire hall. 2, to give you a very simple and basic overview of what we have in mind for the memorial and how we hope to see the project unfold. And lastly, to get your approval to proceed with this project, given that it will be on the grounds of the new hall, on township property, and in a very prominent location at an entry point into our town. For a number of years, there has been talk among the firefighters of creating a memorial. Shortly after we moved into the new hall a year ago, we struck a working committee to take the lead on this project, which includes Chief Alexander, firefighters Gaiman, Clark, and myself, as well as retired firefighter Ron Bell. This group has pulled some information together and brainstormed on ideas, but before proceeding any further, it made sense that we make you aware and get your approval. The basic vision we have currently for the memorial. We are looking at the green space in the area beside the drive. It seems like a logical location with the flags and what is already there. We also see the possibility that if or when the sidewalk is extended out to the 6th concession past the fire hall, that the memorial would be an ideal location for a rest stop, so to speak, with a bench, trees, and possibly a connecting sidewalk. If Council approves the use of the space on the township property, our next steps would be to engage the services of one of our past members, Adam Hoover, who works in the area of landscape architecture, park design, and construction, and is familiar with this project. We would work with him to create a formal set of plans, scope of work, and set an estimated cost and budget. We would hope to have this completed in late August, early September. This would set the target for our fundraising. We do see the fundraising piece as a huge undertaking by the association and obviously the most daunting aspect of this project. Depending on how successful our fundraising efforts are, will determine when this project would come to fruition. Given the success of the fundraising efforts around the Sam Sharp statue, it is our hope that some local benefactors and community groups may be interested in making significant contributions in supporting this project. An ideal and very ambitious time frame for this project would be that we focus our fundraising from September 2018 to June 2019. This would allow work to be official opening in the fall of 2019. Uxbridge Fire has a long, rich history of service to the community. We see this memorial project as an opportunity to raise the community's awareness of that history and pay tribute and respect not only to the members of Uxbridge Fire past, present, and future, but also to our brothers and sisters in the fire service. We are asking your permission to use this property for a firefighter memorial, which allow us to move this project forward. The committee would obviously keep the council representative to Uxbridge Fire up to speed on the project as it progresses. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mike. Councillors? Councillor Bryan.
Thanks very much for this, Mike. Appreciate it. It's always good to hear your voice again. It'll be in my head all day. Quick question for you. Do you envision a size already, or what you're looking at? You had mentioned a park bench and some trees, or what do you envision so far?
We have Firefighter Gaiman has been getting information from different companies and doing a lot of research on different memorials that are around, but we really haven't come to a decision on that, or even haven't sketched it out. We really wanted to get this first step out of the way before we started putting pen to paper and putting that into it, putting a lot of thought into it.
I think it's certainly a great idea, so if somebody else wants to make the motion, because it's their ward, I would support it.
Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Tish McDonald. Just a question, are you thinking about a plaque, Mike? Is that what we're looking at here, or is it like an obelisk, or what's your concept here?
Well, the concept at this point, from discussions among the group, would be some kind of a statue, a firefighter statue, some kind of a monument like that, with an accompanying plaque that would explain what the purpose is.
I think it's a great idea. I'd be willing to make that motion, Mr. Mayor, as
Great, thank you.
to moving forward.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. I know you've all been working on this for a long time. I think it's a fantastic idea. So, Councillor Hyatt's made the motion. Are there any questions? Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike, are you thinking of putting names of people that have passed away that were firefighters here in Uxbridge before?
So, through Chair, just the initial concept would be to honor people who have passed away in the line of duty, which we have one from presumptive legislation several years ago, and then anybody who also passes away while they're in service, if not at an incident or because of an incident while they're still in service to the fire department.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So, Mike, maybe you'll bring, when you finally got the final sort of project together, you'll come back and see us. That'd be great. Thank you. It's a wonderful idea. Any other questions? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Trudy and Robert, are they here? Trudy? Just Trudy? Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. My husband and I live at 14789. Is this on?
It is?
Yep.
That's better.
Okay, sorry. My husband and I live at 14789 Durham Road 39 in Zephyr. We're building a new house. My request is simple. We have a demolition bond on the existing house on the property, but we're not quite ready to move into the new house yet. We're requesting a 6-month extension.
Thanks, Trudy. Okay, does anybody have any problem with this? Any questions? No issues? Great. Would somebody like to make a motion to, Councillor Barton? They can make a motion to extend the permit for another 6 months. Is that enough? You sure?
I'm hoping so. 6 months, I'm hoping, is enough.
Great. Okay. Councillor Barton, yeah. Turn your mic on, Dave, please.
Sure. I suggest, why don't we go with 9, just to give them 3 months of...
Okay, Trudy, you good with that? Great.
Thank you.
Let's do 9 months.
I appreciate very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion by Councillor Barton. All those in favor? Carried. Good luck, Trudy. Keep going.
Thank you very much.
Jennifer here from TRCA. Jennifer, come on up, Jennifer. What number is your report?
Good morning. Is that a good volume?
It's great.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Mayor Malloy, councillors, staff, and members of the general public. My name is Jennifer Stevens, and I am the program manager for the CTC Source Protection Region, which is the region that is involved in the implementation of the Drinking Water Source Protection Program, which includes the Township of Uxbridge. Today I will be speaking to you about the protection of our drinking water through the implementation of the CTC Source Protection Plan and future updates. After the tragic events of 2000 in Walkerton, the province of Ontario took strong action to ensure our drinking water is among the best protected in the world. Following the Walkerton inquiry, Justice O'Connor made 121 recommendations, on a wide range of areas related to protecting drinking water. These recommendations are the building blocks of Ontario's drinking water protection framework. Ontario has a multi-barrier approach to protecting drinking water. The first step in protecting the surface and groundwater that supplies municipal sources of drinking water is called source protection and is implemented under the Clean Water Act, and that's the first bubble on the left. Other components of Ontario's drinking water safety net include strong legislation, stringent standards, regular and reliable testing, highly trained certified operators, licensing of drinking water systems, regular inspections of drinking water systems and labs that test drinking water, and lastly, public reporting. 38 source protection regions were created under this Clean Water Act 2006 in 2007. Where appropriate, some of these areas are working collaboratively. The CTC Source Protection Region is a working relationship between Credit Valley Source Protection Area, Toronto and Region Source Protection Area, and Central Lake Ontario Source Protection Area. The Township of Uxbridge falls within the Toronto and Region Source Protection Area and the Central Lake Ontario Source Protection Area. Since the Clean Water Act was passed in 2006, a number of stakeholders have been working collaboratively to complete an extensive technical assessment of areas around municipal drinking water systems vulnerable to contamination as well as overuse. 3 assessment reports were prepared in the CTC Source Protection Region. Information pertaining to the Township of Uxbridge falls within the Toronto and Region Assessment Report. The CTC Source Protection Plan sets out tools that will be used to address significant drinking water threats. Their Source Protection Plan. As they relate to municipal drinking water, and was approved by the Minister of the Environment and Climate Change in July 2015 and became effective in 2015. The CTC Source Protection Region submitted its first annual report on implementation to the Minister of the Environment and Climate Change on May the 1st, 2018, which is the final arrow. The CTC Source Protection Plan, given that it came into effect on December 31st, 2015, municipalities as well as others responsible for the implementation of the plan policies have identified where challenges have been encountered which require amendment to the plan to make the policies in the plan more practical to be able to be implemented. Further, since the Toronto and Region Assessment Report has been approved, some technical work has been revised for accuracy. These amendments will be summarized in the slides that follow. A requirement unique to the amendment process under the Clean Water Act is the requirement to obtain council resolution and endorsement from each municipality affected by the amendments, hence my being here today. This slide shows the vulnerable areas in the Township of Uxbridge. Although not a municipal residential drinking water system, the well in the Uxville Industrial Park, up to the left, has had the risk assessment completed per the technical guidelines under the Clean Water Act. Also, the vulnerable areas for the Whitchurch-Stouffville, which is to the left here, drinking water system, extend into the Township of Uxbridge. Lastly, the York-Durham Wellhead Protection Area for Quantity, which is the red line, everything above that, extends into the Township of Uxbridge. Here are the vulnerable areas for the Uxville drinking water system. The most vulnerable areas are identified in red. The Wellhead Protection Area A, which extends to 100-meter circumference around the wellhead, is the most vulnerable area. There are also a couple of other red areas, and those indicate transport pathways, such as sewer systems, which increase the speed at which a contaminant can make its way to the source of drinking water. 2 of the amended policies in today's council report affect the 100 meters around the municipal well. Snow 1 is a snow storage policy which prohibits the storage of snow in the area closest to the municipal well. Sewage 3 is a sewage policy used to optimize the location and design of septic systems when existing vacant lots of record, are proposed to be developed within certain designated vulnerable areas identified in the policy. In this small area, in the circle, of the Whitchurch-Stouffville vulnerable areas, snow storage would now be managed using a risk management plan instead of prohibiting the activity as was originally approved in the source protection plan. Similarly, in this same small area, the amended policies would require the township to consider encouraging best management practices for the application of road salt on private roads and parking lots. Threats to water quantity are identified through technical work called water budgets. As watersheds within the CTC source protection region have undergone a Tier 1 and Tier 2 water budget to determine where there may be stresses, when the results of these studies show stresses on water quantity, that is, they proceed on to the next level of analysis, a Tier 3 water budget, which is the most detailed assessment on a local scale. The decision to move to the next stage of analysis is based on whether there is potential water quantity stress identified in groundwater or surface water being used for municipal drinking water supply. The province has established a process to determine if there is water quantity stress and whether the threat is low, moderate, or significant. The York Tier 3 wellhead protection area for water quantity was defined using these provincially mandated criteria. Using these criteria, this area identifies where land development has the potential to affect water levels in municipal wells. The WAPA-Q, as it's abbreviated instead of saying wellhead protection area for water quantity, was delineated using a very conservative approach, such that the line extends far beyond the actual radius of influence of the municipal wells. For example, this zone in green extends tens of kilometers south of the municipal well. Water from Lake Ontario. As mentioned above, some of the WAPA-Q extends within the township of Uxbridge, which is the red circle. As the York Region lower tier municipalities, which include the Township of King, the Township of Richmond Hill, the City of Vaughan, etc., began implementation of the policies in the plan, it became apparent that the REC 1 policy, which is a policy for recharge, presented a challenge for intensification projects supported by the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. Specifically, high-density projects in urban areas beyond the area of influence of municipal water wells have been challenged to meet pre-development recharge rates. Other areas in the WAPA-Q, the green area, have already been designated and approved for urban growth and are currently following the land development process. Many of these developments would otherwise be supported by municipalities and conservation authorities under the Planning Act, but cannot match pre-development recharge rates. To this end, TRCA, Toronto and Region Conservation Authority staff, were asked to consider the development of a down gradient line, south of which development would not have an effect on municipal water supplies and the water quantity provided to those wells. The intent would be to use this line to identify which developments must meet pre-development recharge, that is, water balance assessments, and which developments would follow best approaches or best management practices. The new down gradient line would exempt some Planning Act applications from requiring a water balance assessment. In the area south of the line, so this is within the Township of Uxbridge, proponents would be encouraged to voluntarily implement best management practices for recharge, which would reduce or eliminate any impact from building, development, or site alteration activities. The area north of the down gradient line will continue to require a water balance assessment to ensure that pre-development recharge is maintained as it is required right now in the Source Protection Plan. The final amendment I would like to discuss today is related to significant groundwater recharge areas. As a result of running the York Tier 3 model for a longer period of time, new estimates were generated resulting in revised mapping. and a new threshold for significant groundwater recharge areas. New maps have been revised and are proposed for inclusion in an amended Toronto and Region Assessment Report. Although the significant groundwater recharge area threshold dropped, the proportion of areas in the township of Uxbridge has increased by about 13%, which are the green areas, in addition to the purple areas. In the green areas, moderate and low policies are in the source protection plan, which would apply. Two of these policies have been discussed earlier as they relate to the application of road salt and the encouragement of best management practices. Two other policies relate to the handling and storage of chemicals and using best management practices for there. These policies are non-legally binding. Therefore, the municipality is only encouraged to implement the recommendations of the policies, but are not obliged to do so. And with that, I thank you for your time, and I would be pleased to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Jennifer. Are there any questions? Councillor Ballinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to you, Jennifer. When I think of source water protection and drinking water, something that's not shown or mentioned in there, and maybe it doesn't come under your jurisdiction, is fill. Fill that goes in the land that can be contaminated. We only got to go 6 miles east of here and look at what happened at Green Bank Airport. When I look at the map there and I see Whitchurch, Stouffville, and I see Uxbridge, if you're going along Bloomington Side Road and you took the 9th line south into Stouffville, if you went north towards Musselman's Lake, there's the biggest fill operation going there. Green environment something. Trucks go in there every day. Right on the other side of that is Uxbridge Township. Do your people monitor? Who monitors that? Because this is scary. It's scary.
I think that's called United Soils. Right?
Thank you, Councillor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that is, I've been taking part in many council meetings over the last couple months, and I would have to say that that is a concern that's been brought forward at many of those meetings. So this is not unique. So in terms of the regulation of that, Phil, it really is a Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change together with the municipalities and the conservation authorities working to communicate concerns about that fill. The Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change has recently, within the last several months, posted some guidelines on the Environmental Bill of Rights Registry with respect to the taking in fill, for example, and ensuring best management practices and so on and so forth. It's a fairly elaborate document and certainly is still in its development, but that is really the means by which the ministry is providing the guidance to such operators, or where fill is actually being brought in and applied to areas where it did not originate from, and also controlling, perhaps, if you will, the contaminants that might be in that fill. So through the Drinking Water Source Protection Program, we actually have 21 prescribed threats that relate to agriculture, waste, the sewage, fuel, and other chemicals. Fill is not one of those threats. So we're restricted to those threats that are in the legislation and managing or prohibiting those threats. That said, I certainly would have no problem with the direction of the mayor and your CAO providing some additional follow-up after this meeting that might answer some of the questions that you might have and direct you to the appropriate sources to get the answers to your questions if my summary is not sufficient.
Well, I appreciate you trying to answer that. There's guidelines, and then there's action.
I'm not sure about when the guidelines come into effect. I can't confirm that because it's been a while since I've looked at the actual document that was posted on the registry, so I can't confirm that. But I can confirm that there were guidelines that were posted for public consultation and for feedback from the general public. the status of that review, I'm not sure of.
Thank you.
I think we're well aware that guidelines are not very effective around here, so.
And that too has been a concern I've heard.
Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think it might be appropriate at this time to bring forward CAO Report 818. I think it's referring to the same topics. Have you had a chance, Jennifer, to read through this report?
I have not.
No, it's basically asking that a letter be submitted from this council, and I think you were asking that earlier in your presentation, so.
Yes, in fact,
Okay.
the guidelines that are part of that report came
Right.
from me.
Okay.
So to the Region of Durham and the Region
So I
of
think it
Durham
would be
shared-
appropriate now for us to maybe
Okay.
move that recommendation.
So any questions? Councillor Hyatt's gonna
Can we
move
bring that
move that
forward?
report forward.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Carried. Now your motion, Councillor Hyatt.
I'll move the recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Move the any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. We can continue with questions though, if you like. Councillor Barton?
Thank you very much for coming in, Jennifer. So, the question I have is, you talked about the best practices.
Yeah.
Say for someone putting a house on a 10-acre lot, you know, within the southern part of our municipality.
Mm-hmm.
I just struggle to see the impact of that one house, especially when you compare it to, you know, United Soils and the 500 truckloads or whatever that are going in there a day of soil of really unknown origin,
Yes.
especially when it's so close to our municipal well.
So and thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly the way the policy has been written in the plan and as the revised policy has been written, one house would not trigger the policy. It would only be a major development, which is greater than 500 square meters in size, and basically follows, as the new amendment follows essentially what's in the Oak Ridges Moraine Conservation Plan. So we've tried to align the policy between all the documents that would apply in this area.
Okay.
So certainly within, using your example of one house, that wouldn't trigger the policy. However, if there were probably 4 houses, a new site plan or a new subdivision, then if it would fall within that area south of the down gradient line, then we would encourage low impact development projects where they would be appropriate, and it would be left to the discretion of the municipality as to whether or not they would like to work with the developer, to implement those policies, or whether or not they would like to just, you know, keep things status quo based on what the proposal comes in to the Planning Approval Authority, because the township has the authority under the Planning Act to approve such applications.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for the
You're welcome.
clarification.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jennifer. Would you mind providing us with a copy of the presentation as well, Jennifer, before you go today?
I sent it in last week.
We have it?
Yep.
Just the notes.
Oh, the notes, yes. I will send them afterwards.
You can send them, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't see Nancy here. Can we ask, is Octavio here? Can we do Octavio? It's a little early. Okay, Octavio, come on up. This is regarding 10 Bagshaw.
Yes, it's regarding 10 Bagshaw. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council. Pretty much we're here is we put a product on our...
Can you put that mic just a little bit close? That'd be great. Thank you.
That was better.
Go ahead. Yeah, that's great. Can you start over again,
Sorry about
Octavio?
that.
Thank you.
Sorry, a little nervous. I've never done this before. Never had to come in front of a council before, so...
Relax.
So we... Make it a little worse. Make it worse. I get it. No, we came... we purchased a lot in November to build a house there. And we weren't aware there was a subdivision agreement for that lot. Like, our agent didn't tell us, and we didn't know. I think we're the 3rd owner of this lot. We are in our original plans. We had a composite siding put on the property, which everything was approved by council, by the building department and everything. I currently have composite siding on my house, so I have experience with the product. And for the last 2 winters, I've had it's if you know what composite siding, it's like hardwood, not hardwood, engineered floor where it's tongue and groove. With the type of winters we've had for the last 2, what's been happening is it's supposed to move together. One would freeze with the thaw and the refreeze, and one would move. So it's ripping apart at the tongue and groove. So we decided on this house we're looking for something that's going to be a little bit more energy efficient, have a little bit of R rating, have some noise because we're facing the Durham Road Run. We wanted to have a little bit of noise reduction, so we went with an insulated vinyl and added more stone than we did originally on the first set of drawings. And I didn't realize it wasn't part of the subdivision agreement for the vinyl aspect of it. So, and that's pretty much what I'm here for, is for the permission to keep that product on, because it's already fully on the product. It's on the house. The house is about 95% done. We're just going in to do the septic and the well and the grading, and that's where we stand right now. And for us to kind of take that off and put something new, it would turn into a pretty hardship for us.
Perhaps, Brian, would you mind coming forward, Brian, in case there's any questions? Councillor Ballinger? Is that
No,
okay.
that's what I was gonna ask for
Okay,
the chief
great.
building inspector.
Thank you, Octavio. We got any questions for Brian on this? So, Brian, where are we at with this? Can he do this? Can he make these changes? I'm
Yes,
not-
I have a report coming up, and I recommended that council accept the vinyl siding. That is in the subdivision agreement, but nowadays, the vinyl siding he's talking about, from a distance, I would say you couldn't tell what type of product it was, and it has the insulation behind it, so it is more of a rigid vinyl siding. So I don't have any issue with the work he did. And again, as he mentioned, he increased the amount of stone on the front elevation. So my opinion is it's fine. It's a good product.
So what elevation changed? Sorry. Not the house, just the landscaping out front?
No,
Is that what you
no, the house did. His first elevation showed, like he had mentioned, a composite siding with a stone,
Yeah.
and he's changed that a little bit.
Okay.
But the issue in our agreement, it mentions no vinyl. So
Okay.
that's really the
Okay.
issue.
Do we have any other questions? Oh, Councillor Beach?
I think it's a really good thing. Personally, we have composite on our house, and I wouldn't recommend it for anybody.
Exactly.
It's a nightmare.
I was recommended on it, and because we want to do something a little higher end than
Yeah, and
vinyl,
it-
right? And it's been 2 years of an expense.
Yes.
Like, 'cause you can't repair one.
No, you
Gotta
can't.
go up and take
It-
it all down and do it again.
That's right. The product that you're talking about, it makes total sense, and it has a nice look to it, which is, I think, very important to keep with the look in the area.
Absolutely.
Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, I think it might be appropriate to bring forward Brian's report, DS 2718. Just a question to you, Brian. So you're recommending going with the new material as well as the design as well? Is that correct? So maybe if we could make a third point on your recommendation to approve the building materials as well as the design, is that okay? Yeah, okay.
So we can just amend the
Mr. Chair,
report?
if I could bring that forward? Yeah.
First, we'll bring the report forward. This is report
2718.
2718.
Yep.
Moved by, no questions, moved by Councillor Hyatt. All's in favor? Carried. Now, do you have a motion, Councillor Hyatt, with
I'll move the
amendment?
recommendation and also add the bullet point that the CBO approves of the new building materials to be used in lieu of the composite materials.
Thank you. Questions, Councillor Barton?
Yeah, just before we go forward with that, I have a couple residents who live in the area who have some concerns with this. If you drive through this subdivision, sorry, Octavio, if you drive through this subdivision, there's only one other house that has the majority of the building envelope is siding. Most of those homes are others decorative brick or stone. So it doesn't fit with the rest of the neighborhood. This development is mostly built out. I think maybe a compromise on the back of the property, you've only got stone basically in the front, but a number of your neighbors see the back of the house. And I would be willing to compromise. My resident isn't at all, but if you put decorative stone on the bottom, all the way behind the property, I would
understand that.
support that.
But I think to do that, the foundation has to have a lip to it, a stone lip, so you could sit the stone on it.
Okay.
So it doesn't on the back, because we weren't gonna do the stone along the back of it there, along as a skirt. I don't know if Brian can speak to that on.
Brian, can you speak to the logistics of putting stone in the back of that?
Yes, no, he's correct. If it depends on the type of product, but normally, like for a brick veneer or a stone, you have your foundation is wider, so you have a ledge to support the stone. So that's correct. And the agreement really doesn't speak to percentage of stone and percentage of. It does mention no vinyl, but my opinion is that from a distance, if you change the vinyl all to wood siding, you really wouldn't tell. It is an agreement. That's why I told him he had to go to council.
Okay.
Okay. Now,
So it fits the agreement, is that what you're saying?
As far as the style, yes, it fits. The only issue was
The vinyl.
the vinyl siding.
Councillor Martin?
yeah, so I understand if you were going with a full stone, natural stone, or a thicker stone, but there's a number of products on the market today that are mostly decorative, that people put in fireplaces or on the outside of their homes, that you could certainly put some anchors in or something like that, that would,
I understand. I don't know, I can't tell what the logistics of it, 'cause I don't do stone, I'm not the
Okay.
builder themselves. From my understanding, we're putting in a fireplace on the inside. It's pretty much, it's stone, it's a split face stone. It doesn't really, it's not like the stone where you need a ledge, but it's just a kind of a mortar on the back to hold it on place. I don't know how well that would be there, like, I wouldn't want it to be, could put something on to make it look great now, and in a month from now or 2 months from now, or the winter comes in, it drops off because I didn't do it properly to start off with, just to give it that look. I'm open to doing something else in the back, like to do some landscaping there or something like that, to give it a different image to it. But it's like I said from the beginning, from our original drawings, we didn't have this stone skirt. We actually added that because we didn't like how the look. We looked at it and was like, well, this doesn't fit. We had one big wall that was going to be stone on one of the sides, and we took that. You know what? Let's take that stone and add it to the skirt to give it a better feel for the neighborhood as well.
Yeah.
And we didn't think about going around the whole back, because the house that we back towards is all brick, and there's nothing kind of as a finished stone. We tried to just keep it as on the front and the around the garage. Really what's missing is just the right side of the building that doesn't have it, where we have a deck that goes down from the back. But like I said, I'm open to doing something, but I don't know how well adding a type of product there would work long term, more than anything.
yeah. Anyway, I've seen this type of product on the outside of homes, businesses.
Mm-hmm.
It's widely used, from what I understand.
So there are products out there that you don't need the ledge, but
Right.
if he's trying to match what's there, like, it might be different, it might be possible, I'm not sure. But you're right, there are products out there that you can just glue to the sheathing.
Yeah. Again, I'm looking for a compromise that keeps my residents happy and also makes this a financial viable
Yeah.
project for you. So
I get it.
I'm looking for compromise.
Absolutely, so.
So this, I think this subdivision's what, how many years old is this subdivision now?
Oh.
25? 30?
Since I was a kid.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a long
At least
time.
25 years, probably.
So anyway, obviously, products have changed substantially since those original agreements, so.
Exactly.
Okay, so council, what would you like to do with this? We have a motion from Councillor Hyatt. Are there any other questions? All those in favor? Carried. All right. Thank you,
Thank you.
Octavio.
Council, Mr. Mayor.
Can we go to Nancy? Oh, it's pretty good now, eh? We're only 5 minutes away. Good. Hi, Nancy. Would you like to come up? Use the table or the podium. You've been here before. You know the drill. you go. Thank you.
Okay. Good
Welcome.
morning.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and the rest of council for accepting my presentation this morning. This is an update for your information on the Vibrant North Durham Economic Development Plan. So essentially, this is a plan that we put in place in 2013 through a lot of effort in the community and outreach and consultation. It is a cohesive 5-year plan to implement economic development thinking, processes, and projects throughout North Durham. And it is the first economic development plan for the township. This presentation is to give council an overview on its development, implementation to date, and next steps. Consultation included in the preparation of this plan a great deal of work with your township staff, your own council, the Economic Development Advisory Committee, your Uxbridge Chamber, the BIA, and your Uxbridge Networking Group. The plan was in fact adopted by your Township Council in 2013, and part of our staff commitment is to implement the Township Action Plan through regular reporting to your council. So we have been here each year since the inception of the plan to give updates to your council. Some of you may have been here throughout the entire time, some are new faces, but it is important to realize the effectiveness of a plan that covers all of North Durham. It does represent a collaboration that's been quite seriously taken, and a lot of implementation of some great steps that shows partnership with the 3 North Townships. Just as a reminder, the real essence of the plan contains 4 strategies that we aim to implement. Be open for business, inspire and support the entrepreneurship that's alive and well in North Durham, and to build a vibrant future for our young adults, which is so important. As well, a strong rural and small town identity going forward. Each of these have been written to improve the township's contribution to local economic development, and they're also an invitation throughout the life of this plan for local businesses and organizations to work together for these common goals. Essentially, in your report that you received, and also the Vibrant Plan itself, there is an updated action plan that includes actions that have been completed since 2013, the inception of the plan. Each year it's identified on a table. And it also lists out the actions of the most recent year that I'm going to highlight now. In terms of open for business, some of the things that have taken place in the last year in the township, just as reminders, is the new business welcome protocol development. This has been fantastic. It really is a great connection and link right off the mark for any new business that comes into town. And it also does include setting up a formal ribbon cutting process with the mayor and council. So I think it really is important, and it provides a great sense of welcome into the community. Also, we have the Durham Economic Development Partnership, which North Durham is a part of, and this group has undertaken an initiative to review investment-ready employment lands in North Durham, as well as across all of Durham region. I think I'd like to point out, keep an eye on that report. It's coming up to the next committee of the whole at Durham Region, so your regional councillors can probably share that information with you, but it is quite an insightful report in terms of economic development and our industrial lands and the readiness for sale. Also, you conducted your Uxbridge Council business tour, and that was held in September of 2017. This was a great initiative for your council and for specific members of staff to really get out and have a first-hand visit with the local businesses, and that, face-to-face contact in terms of what are your challenges, but what are also your opportunities to stay within the township and even expand your business. To inspire and support entrepreneurship, the annual Building Business Forum was hosted by all 3 Economic Development Advisory Committees, and this 2017 event was hosted on a rotating basis, and it was in Township of Scugog. It did feature speakers from throughout North Durham, including your own Uxbridge's Arthur Field of Nexus Coffee Company. Also, a workshop was held entitled Leadership and Communication, Keys to an Entrepreneurship Success, and that was held in November in collaboration with your Uxbridge College Community Employment Services, the Business Advisory Center, and the Region of Durham. It was held as part of a larger series of events for Global Entrepreneurship Week. Creating a vibrant future for our young adults. There's some great examples in Uxbridge, happened last year around this. To name some, your Ontario Summer Company took place with the assistance of the Business Advisory Center Durham. This typically happens annually, and Uxbridge has been a great participant in that program. The Brock Youth Center Youth Entrepreneurship Program and Business Pitch Competition took place. As well, the Brock Youth Center developed a new program this year called EDGE. Also of interest, we have Lois Shaw from the Brock Youth Center that's going to be providing a delegation to the Committee of the Whole at Durham Region, their upcoming meeting next week. So that would be good information to maybe perhaps receive a copy of the presentation. We've been a big supporter, as has all North Durham with the Brock Youth Center, and I think a big part of this is that they have followed through on further outreach beyond just Brock Township, but all of North Durham. So they've hit several high schools throughout Uxbridge and Scugog and Brock. Building a stronger rural and small town identity. The township has taken advantage of the Rural Economic Development Funding Program through the province, and this is creating a marketing and outreach plan to support your businesses that are going to be impacted and are impacted by the Brock Street culvert replacement. This is a huge project. It's been a great initiative to obtain the RED funding, and staff has been working hard on this at your township. You need to be aware to ensure that businesses are impacted at least possible ways when this project is taking place. It's a high-level presentation, but essentially it's just to, put a focus back on the Vibrant North Durham plan, how effective it's been in the outreach that's taken place. And really the community has pitched in and been involved throughout the 5 years of this plan so far. Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Would somebody like to bring report DS 2518 forward? Councillor Barton? Questions? All in favor? Carried. Questions? Councillor Barton.
More of a comment. I had an opportunity to be one of the judges in your youth entrepreneurship competitions. Fantastic. It was a great program. The ideas were fantastic and totally well organized by Jasmine. So.
Oh, thank you. So impressive, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
To see these young people come out and the ideas, their innovation.
Yes. Yeah. One of them, I wanted to give them money to finance it. It's great. Thanks.
I'm sure they were pleased to hear that.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Councillor Hyatt. Oh, sorry, Councillor Brown. I'll get you
Nope,
next time.
fine.
Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And hello, Nancy. How are you?
Hi, thank you.
Just a question. You brought up Lois in your presentation. I know we're working with her right now to maybe get the Uxbridge Youth Center on board. She's great. She has resources, obviously, through AMAFRA and everywhere else. So we're hoping to roll that out, hopefully sooner rather than later. Just a question on the on the Building Business Forum. I know we decided not to have it this year because of the looming election. Is there a way that that could be held sooner in next spring rather than push it off into the fall? The only reason I'm suggesting that is if you have new council members, they need to kind of get their head around the economic development portfolio. And I think the sooner you can introduce them to that, the better off everybody will be.
Yeah.
You know, is there a way to do it maybe in April, May of 19?
That's a good point, and I know we have had some initial discussions around trying to land a date. We can go back to the 3 advisory committees and try and sort that out.
Because I think that would be, it's a great thing. If you council has been to it, you know what I'm talking about. It's a great networking opportunity as well. And you always come away learning something from the speakers and or the people that are there. Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Nancy.
thank
Councillor
you.
Ballinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and hi, Nance. Just, was there any discussion with the group, when we talk about the young people building a vibrant future, it's pretty tough for our kids when they leave here to come back to Uxbridge. And it's all to do with housing. And it gets down to affordability. I mean, you know, for young people to come back and they have to work like heck to save $50,000. Now they got a mortgage of $550,000. How do they do this? Like, was there any thoughts along this line at all?
Absolutely. We recognize, and certainly the advisory committees have all spoke about this. I think it comes up regularly in the meetings. There has also been some discussion around doing a bit more research in North Durham specifically, in availability and the possibility of how things can be improved, how there can be a spotlight put on that, so that current builders and future builders could keep that in more front of mind, and getting that message out to the building and the business industries. The one thing I could offer is that at the region, they received a lot of feedback on that matter as they're exploring the development charge bylaw review, you might recall. And the good news is that they are putting aside, in the new bylaw, there will be a DC charge that goes specifically into a fund for affordable housing purposes into the future. We'll just have to make sure that North Durham, you know, is part of that equation.
Has there been any mention of the new casino, Durham Live, that money would go from there towards housing, affordable housing in Durham region? Has anything been made of that? I just know it was one of the things that was mentioned if the casino went in Pickering, that a certain amount of money would go towards affordable housing in Durham region. And it would be a great thing for some of our younger people.
It would be fabulous. I'll look further into it. I've not myself heard that.
Councillor Bryan.
To that, Councillor Ballinger, I was at a breakfast a couple of weeks ago with the Mayor of Pickering and Ajax, and Mayor Dave Ryan did say that when the casino goes in, he would like to see 30% of that, of the revenue, go to that. So
That's
he did
excellent.
make that statement on the record at the Ajax Pickering Board of Trade breakfast. So that would be terrific.
Mm-hmm.
Councillor Beach.
Thank you, Nancy, for being here. I totally agree with Councillor Ballinger, and like there needs to be something done to be able to have our young people come back here and be able to live, because I mean we're raising some very spectacular young people with their talents in all kinds of business, arts, everything, and I think it's really important and would definitely help out a lot.
I'll deliver this message back to some of my key peer group and colleagues at Durham Region in specifically in social housing work areas.
And I think aside from the youth, sorry Gordon, aside from just the youth, I mean, that housing impacts our seniors, impacts everybody. I mean, our seniors don't have anywhere else to go if they try to downsize, so it's not just the youth, it's our seniors as well. Housing is a huge issue. And our seniors have a huge impact on our economic development as well, as you know, I'm sure so. Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, just on the affordability piece, I know the DC study that you're referring to is absolutely vital in getting that done. As a municipality, as you probably know, we're being very proactive with accessory units, you know, getting that kind of thing. The more affordable that we can make it for people to renovate and provide housing, I think that's the solution. You know, trying to lower the price of housing is gonna be next to impossible, and I think if you can create an accessory apartment either in your existing house or in an accessory building,
Right.
that's the way to go.
Okay.
And it's not just particularly for youth, although that it would be help, it would be for people of modest incomes, we'll call it, right? Because they don't have 600,000 that they can drop on a new house. You know, it's just not gonna be happening for them, right? So we are doing it, it's incrementally changing, but, you know, hopefully we'll get there sooner rather than later. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you. I think, just on that, you know, as a council, you're very aware, it's brought to your attention probably on a daily basis, these issues and many others, but in terms of the, affordable housing piece, you know, the more we can, as collectively get the message out to the community on those types of points, wanting to consider, you know, another source of income and through renovation. Right, exactly. And I did want to also share with you that Lois Shaw, and I'm not sure if it's already been scheduled, but she is planning to make the presentation, similar presentation to all three of the North Townships. So if she isn't already on your agenda, you will look forward to seeing her soon.
Great. Thanks, Nancy. Councillor Barton.
Yeah, I was just gonna agree with both Nancy and Gord. I think the auxiliary apartments inside the homes and outside in the rural areas will make a huge difference. It allows young people to take that rent in to pay their mortgages, and it also allows low-cost housing. And I'm hearing more and more people where it's the parents' house, the parents move into an auxiliary unit on the property, the kids take it over. We're seeing more and more innovative ways that our residents are using these new bylaws, so. Anyway, thanks.
My kids are working on exactly that. I just think it's funny that I gotta move out of the big house and move into the little one next door, but anyway. Thank you, Nancy.
If you loved your kids,
yeah, well, I do, but I'm not looking forward to a little house either.
What we do for
yeah,
our
at least
kids.
I'm not going in a home, as Debbie says. That's good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nancy. That's wonderful.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time.
We have report, DS 2518. Would somebody like to move the recommendation? Councillor Ballinger. All those in favor? Carried. We're just gonna take a 5-minute break right now, okay? And we'll try to keep it right to 5. All right. I'll call this Finance and Emergency Services Committee to order. Oh, did I miss something there? Correspondence 93, this is from Municipal Property Impact. Notice of motion regarding inflated property assessments. Councillor Barton?
Yeah, just a motion to receive. I think as long as all the values are at the same level,
yeah,
it doesn't really
doesn't
matter.
change.
So
Exactly.
as long as we're all in the same boat.
Exactly. Were you gonna?
That's my take on it.
Donna, were you gonna do a report on this later? Is this the one or no? No, not this one. Okay, the other one. Okay. Yeah, great. So, a motion to receive from Councillor Barton. Any questions? All those in favor? Carried. Item 94 from Bob Shirelli, Minister of Infrastructure. This is, Infrastructure for Jobs Prosperity Act 2015. And this one, Donna, you're gonna bring something forward later, at a later date? Are you bringing something forward in this one at a later date? Okay. What would you like to do with this then? Receive it for now? Councillor Barton? All those in favor? Carried. Item 95 on the correspondence. Marie-France Salon, Minister of Community Services, Correctional Services, redevelopment of 3 new fire safety regulations on the Fire Protection and Prevention Act. And I could call our, if you don't mind, our Chief forward in case there's any questions. Are there any questions of the Chief? Councillor Barton.
Yeah, just one, Chief. Can we hit the 2021 fairly easily, do you think, or is that still gonna be a stretch?
So which, sorry,
Oh,
which
for
one, which
the sorry, for the NFP, looks, from how I read it, looks like they're pushing out the NFPA requirements to 2021 from, I think it's June of 2019, wasn't it?
Right, so
Yeah,
the,
then yeah.
there's more than 400 submissions when they put the white paper out, so, and thank you, council also made a submission, as did the fire department. We should be in good shape with the firefighter certification. There's some of our most senior members will probably their careers will wind up possibly before that date, and they'll get grandfathered and not certified. And then with regard to the other two regulations, one about reporting to council and to the fire marshal's office about response times, we're already doing that through our annual report, as well as when we report our fire reports to the fire marshal's office. And the last one was on the public safety evaluation, which we're following the simplified risk assessment right now, but there isn't a requirement to do that annually until you do your first one under the new guideline, which is pushed out to much farther than it was. So we should be, the fire marshal's office has committed to providing additional spaces at the fire college and the local and the area colleges, which they have done. In fact, we have two of our acting captains that are going to be going to the fire college this fall. I hope that we're on a wait list in 2019 previously. And then they've also mentioned, but not how, they're going to provide additional funding to municipalities. We'll see how that happens.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions for the Chief? No? Great. I'm glad to hear it's all going to work now. It looked a little scary 6 months ago. It looks pretty good now. Great. Thank you, Chief. Someone like to make a motion to receive that, please? Councillor Hyatt. All's in favor? Carried. Our reports to committee. This is report PWO 3518 from Karen Rill, who's here today. This is regarding the Music Hall LED lights. Councillor Ballinger.
I will move this recommendation. I sit on the Music Hall board. Everything's in order, and you know what? It's a pain in the butt. You can't go up in the ladder unless you have a ladder license. I mean, it's everything is in order. This went through the budget, so
great.
I'll move the recommendation.
Are there any questions, Councillor Hyatt?
I guess through you to Karen, are there any funding opportunities available for relamping?
Karen, would you like to come forward, please?
Like energy grants or something like that?
Hit the mic, Karen, please. Thank you.
We did get in touch last year with Viridian, I believe it was, and they said that we could have received $600 towards the
okay.
the lighting, so I can look into that again.
Yeah, if you would, that'd be great.
Sure.
Every little bit helps. Thanks, Karen.
Great. So we have Councillor Ballinger's removed the recommendation. Any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. Thank you, Karen.
Thanks.
This is a great report from our fire department, 0818 of Phil Alexander. This is regarding the municipal emergency exercise. What would you like to do with this? Councillor Hyatt.
Move the recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Are there any questions? All's in favor? Carried. Actually, it was a great exercise, and as you saw in the report, we, whenever we do these exercises, there's so much we learn, little tiny details that sometimes as you're going through them, things happen. You know, we had one, for example, where something was being typed out, one laptop wouldn't click into the Wi-Fi that happened to be at the fire hall. Little things like that, detailed. So we've done, I don't know how many of these exercises we've done now in the last number of years, 4 or 5, I guess, at the new fire station, yeah. Anyway, wonderful, great exercise, and thank you for putting that together for us, Chief. Okay, this is report TR 1818, Donna Condon. This is the annual repayment limit for long-term debt. This is, Councillor Barton.
Did we vote on the last one? The
Yeah.
motion to receive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Bryan.
Just receive for information.
Any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. This is report TR 1918, also from Donna Condon. This is the annual indexing of Township of Uxbridge development charges. Questions, Councillor Barton?
Yeah, just vote to support the recommendations.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? All's in favor? Carried, thank you. Report TR 2018, Donna Condon. This is regarding development charges, and this is the Treasurer's statement. Questions? Any questions? Councillor Hyatt, move the recommendation.
I'll just move the recommendation. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. Thank you. This is report 0318 of Pamela Beach regarding the installation of ceiling acoustics at Goodwood Hall. Comments? Councillor Barton?
Again, support the recommendations.
I think the one thing we do have to clarify is where the money's coming from. It'll either come from the Community Hall Fund or the sale of the Goodwood Hall. This wasn't budgeted, though, this year, was it?
It wasn't budgeted because we didn't have the study done, and it was said that if the study was done, then we might be able to move ahead either from the Siloam community hall sale or from the future sale of the Lions Hall or a combination thereof.
Great. So Donna, we can advance these funds and take them, well, they're in the community hall fund now anyway, aren't they? So, okay. Okay, great. Councillor Hyatt?
Question for you through to Councillor Beach. Does this hall have to be closed in order to do this work?
It would be done virtually in about a day and a half.
day? So it wouldn't interfere with rentals or
No,
that
no.
kind of stuff?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Are you gonna ask me something? You look, ask me something, Dawn. I'm not sure if you are. Do you have something you wanna add to that?
Sorry, if I could just be given direction under which, reserve the funds would come from?
Well, probably it should come from the sale of Goodwood Hall, I imagine. We'll keep the money in the community, if that's okay. But you'll advance that anyway. We don't have to wait for the hall to be sold. Would somebody like to make that motion? Councillor Barton? Oh, sorry. Okay, so can we support the recommendation with the funding coming from the sale of the Goodwood Hall? Would that be okay? Great. All's in favor? Carried. Is there any unfinished business? Under other business, we have accounts for May. Councillor Barton?
I just had one question, and it's a fairly small amount, but we've got, under clerks, we've got Wilson Water Wells, and this is pump well for water sample. Is this for the animal shelter? What is this? It's $508.
No, actually, what that is for, water testing for the Bartolo property. So they came in and did a pump test, for us so that we could get water samples because there's no hydro. And so we needed a well company to do that. So you'll be getting some reports very shortly on that whole soil sampling and water sampling. Okay?
Thanks. And under Public Works, I think you'll note that we have all those locates. I don't know what it totals, how much money it totals, but we have somebody starting that's going to replace all those numbers, right, very soon. Is it June? This month? When are we getting somebody? Sorry, Ben, would you mind coming forward?
He actually started a couple weeks ago,
Oh,
but
did?
we just
Okay.
haven't gotten the machine. We have it ordered, but we haven't got it
Okay.
yet.
Great. So those numbers will be vanishing in future, which is great, which is the purpose. Great. Would somebody like to move the accounts? Question? Councillor Beach, go ahead.
Thank you. Under fire department, the mugs, what, that just kind of struck me funny, for what that is.
Bling.
Bling?
Not bling. So we have a kitchen in the fire hall, and we bought dishes and cutlery, and this is some mugs for the kitchen.
Oh, okay. Because I was just like, what's this to do with?
It's not actually bling, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one other question.
Go ahead.
The testing for the water, for the Goodwood Lions Hall is $169.50. Now, have we heard back anything about the health department, if it's not being tested, whether it could be used by the cloggers?
Yeah.
I know it's a little...
Go ahead,
We did hear back, and as long as people are in the hall, we have to be testing. We don't have an option just to say, use at own risk. As long as we are going to let someone use it, my understanding from Karen is the health department says we need to continue testing. Ben may have more to add, though.
Do you want to add something to that, Ben?
Staff have decided that as of July 1st, I think we're gonna close that hall,
This is gonna go up for sale, right?
not let anybody in.
Have we notified all the groups that use it? Has everybody,
believe so.
everybody's been
I
notified?
believe so.
Is that the only one left is the cloggers?
And the Lions Club themselves.
Okay. So I think it was, Debbie's telling me the last meeting we gave direction that you were going to tell them they had to be out by... Okay. Now it's official.
Now I'll go ahead and notify the Lions as well as the cloggers.
Great, thank you. All right, so do we have a motion to approve the accounts? Someone make a motion, Councillor Bryan. Are there any questions? All's in favor? Carried. I'll turn this over to Tourism, Heritage, and Community Programs Committee.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Beach.
Tourism, Heritage, and Community...
Sorry, I got interrupted,
Oh, yeah.
sorry. Press. I hope your cough gets better.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions, if I may, for the fire chief, through you. First of all, on the accident on Mill Street, was it last week? I have been told, and that's all, I've been told by someone who said he was an observer, that when that truck pulled the wires down, the fire department was not called to that scene. Is that correct?
Well,
Can I ask you to answer that question, Chief?
well, I can confirm we weren't called, yes.
You were called?
We were not called.
You were not called. Okay, thanks, Chief. And
Sorry, but does that mean no one called 911? No one called 911, nothing?
Police were there.
the police were there,
Nobody requested the fire department.
Well, okay.
and yet apparently the truck was wrapped in live wires, so I don't understand that.
Well, I should just, if I could clarify to that,
Please,
through the chair, that the fire department can't do anything at any scene where there's electricity involved until the power company disconnects the power. So if there was no fire, it's unusual that we weren't called there, for sure, but it's an example of a case that if there is no fire, there's nothing we can do until the power is disconnected. The driver wasn't trapped in the vehicle. He did the right thing by waiting, I hope, until Pedro had arrived and disconnected the power.
Okay. And on the fire chief's report on the incident, the emergency exercise, it says that local radio and print media were stakeholders in this. I don't know about my colleagues on this table, but I had absolutely no inkling whatsoever that this exercise was going on.
So through the chair, it's an exercise, so everybody that's represented in the exercise is represented in a simulation cell. So we simulated calls from local radio stations and press to the participants that they were responsible to respond to, and then the communications people in the emergency exercise were also responsible for generating emergency messaging for the municipality and for the media, but nothing left the sim cell.
Can you turn your mic on, Roger, please?
Is there any reason why the media were not informed in advance that this exercise was going on? I remember back in about 2000, when I worked for the Times Journal, we were heavily involved in that exercise because we had a rookie reporter made up as one of the victims of an explosion at Reachview. I just wonder why we weren't involved in this.
Go ahead, Chief, if you like.
Well, because it was not a live, actual external exercise taking place at a physical location, and so obviously in the case that they previously mentioned, I was involved in that exercise as well as a firefighter. When you're making an exercise in real time and people are going to observe it, they're going to have some concerns if they observe a serious incident at a facility like that without public notification. So in the event that we get progress far enough in our emergency program that we can have a live, real-time exercise, we'll be notifying everybody that that's going on, so there's no concern.
So it was entirely scripted, Roger, so the region had scripted questions pretending they were, during the exercise, we would get a phone call from the press, which is totally scripted by the region. So everything was an act. None of it was obviously live. So they had questions they specifically wanted to sort of throw changes at us and try to yeah, it's just training. So really, it was all simulated. So it really wouldn't have had anything to do with you. They had prepared questions that if they pretended to be or called in and said, we are from such and such a radio station, they had worked on these prescribed questions that we were going to deal with to make the simulation more real.
So are you telling me that the residents of 20 Perry Street were not moved to the arena?
That was one, but that's Phil. That's something you have to do. We had to see that it worked, and we had to make sure we didn't have any complications with that. That's a little different.
There was not all the residents. There were some people that participated in that to test our facilities at the arena, and they did move there in a bus to test the facilities at the arena to open up the reception center at the arena. Yes, they did.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the press? No? Anybody in the audience with a question? No? Already good. Now I will turn it over to Tourism Heritage Community Programs Committee.
Thank you
Councillor
very
Beatty.
much. So I would like to open Tourism Heritage and Community Program Committee. Correspondence, reports to committee, report RC 0818 of Carolyn Clements about the Aquatic Manager the ActiveNet update. This was great when I was reading this. Very exciting. It allowed less staff, more accuracy, and speed. Any comments?
Let's make a motion to
Yes.
receive and thank Carolyn.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Barton?
Yeah, just a comment to go along with what you said. To have a 29.8% increase is unbelievable.
Mhm.
So, and I think this is where technology can make us more efficient and increase our bottom line, so fantastic news.
Any other comments, questions? So it was...
All in favor?
All those in favor of receiving? Thank you. Any unfinished business? Any other business? Before I close, press, anything? Nothing? Audience? Nothing? Okay, I'd like to close Tourism, Heritage, and Community Program Committee and pass it on to Parks, Facilities, and Arenas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beach. Parks, Facilities, and Arena. No correspondence, reports to committee, unfinished business, and other business. So I'll talk about, I guess it's unfinished business. You all know that we put in the Vimy Oak saplings. We have the plates made to go on. Doing an inspection, they're dead. Out of the 11 that we had planted, only one survived. So Mr. Ferguson and park staff and people from the horticulture went out and looked at them all. What happened in April, they were budding, and we had that storm, ice storm. It killed them all except one. So what's happened now is we've contacted the nursery where they came from. Said we want to replace them. The plates are made, everything. They don't have authority to do so until they contact the Vimy Ridge Foundation that we had to buy them through originally, and then this was the nursery that supplied them. So they didn't think there's a problem, but we're waiting to hear back. But we are going to replace them all. It's the only one that survived is the one down there at Elgin Pond. And it's fine. The rest are, even the one behind the township office, gone. Okay, also other business. When you walk along the walkway on the east side of the pond, the shed that we use, the little hut there that we've used for, we've used for Huck Finn Day. It's the only time it's really used. The washrooms have been cleaned up. That building is being all painted and brought up to date. I don't mind telling you, I went to the youth group and sat down and talked to the youth group. In my former past dealing with juvenile delinquents, I really felt that kids grow with responsibility. So I asked them if they would talk with their kids and put it to the board. I would like to see, if it's feasible, and I will do a report to council if it's feasible, that we open that up. It has water, it has everything in there, it will be painted and clean. It shouldn't be a problem going through the health inspection, that the youth of Uxbridge open up an ice cream shop and maybe hot dogs and water. I really believe that's part of the responsibility. They need funds. The other thing about it is they learn, if they're given a float in the morning when they start, at the end of the day, how to balance money. And I know I walk by there all the time, and any time I go near water, there's always a place where you can get a drink, or you can get an ice cream cone, or you can get something. And so I think that building's underutilized, so I've thrown it to them. And they were gonna talk with their board and talk with the kids and, get back to me. So, if that happens, I will write a report to this council and get the feelings of council. Is there any questions from any of the council members? Okay, anything from the newspaper? Anything from the crowd out there? Okay, on that note, I'm gonna close this section and pass it on to watershed sustainability. Mr. Barton, it's all yours.
Thank you. This will not be a long meeting. I'll open sustainability, watershed, and conservation. My one item was the CAO report, and that we already dealt with. So I will go to any unfinished business, any other business, any questions from the press, from the giant crowd, and I'll close this meeting, pass it over to Public Works, Councillor Bryan.
Thank you, Councillor Barton. I call to order this meeting of Public Works in operation. First item is an item of correspondence, item number 96. For Maggie and Drew Ferraro, rear request to close concession 7 from Bell Street to Highway 21 and Brookdale Road from concession 7 to the Foxfire Estates on September 16th, 2018 for the Terry Fox Run. Questions, concerns, comments? Councillor Hyatt, and then we'll go to Councillor Beach.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll support that request. It's a great thing, and we participate as a family in it every year, so it's wonderful.
Councillor Beach?
I was going to support it, but Councillor Hyatt beat me to it. But it is a great event, and I think everybody should really support it.
All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. Next item, Paul Jankowski, Commissioner, Region of York, Always Stop Control intersection of Ravenshoe Road and Victoria Road, concession 7. Councillor Barton. Good thing I was looking there.
Yeah. So, I'll speak to this. I've had the majority of residents that have spoken to me in Eudora say it's better than it was. So, they've been pretty supportive. Although I was in Eudora on Saturday, and the lines that were painted by the region are now almost faded right out. The stop ahead is a little bit brighter, but I think we need to get the region in to repaint those lines, put, all the lines all over that section of road. We're getting into cottage season, and all the people that have driven through that town for the last 30 years might be partially on autopilot, and we need to remind them that this is an issue. So I'll make a motion to receive this report, and then to send a request to the region to get those lines painted on the roads.
Okay. We have a motion in front of us. All in favor? That motion is carried. Next item is item number 98. Eric Pay, read the follow-up on a request for a meeting with the Region of Durham regarding truck traffic in Uxbridge. Questions, concerns, comments? Mayor Malloy?
I believe Ingrid's trying to set something up, and then they're going to invite him to the meeting. So there will be one very soon. Well, I thought it was. He's been told that he wanted to attend a meeting, and he was told he was going to be able to by what I read. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think he expects to get an answer. It's my understanding.
That's how I read it as well. So what's our step then? What's our motion?
I think just to refer to staff to arrange a meeting, including Eric Pay.
Okay. All in favor? Carried. Next item, Darrell Pike, Viper Marketing, request for a tree in front of 16 Bascom Street. I have a question first off, Ben. Are we supplying the tree or he's supplying the tree? Didn't really say in his letter.
I believe he is.
Okay.
Well, that was my question. The other thing, when you go out and you look in front there, there's no green space. That's solid sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
It's all cement.
So does that mean we have to cut it the hole in?
Well, that's the question I have. What's to happen there?
Okay. Councillor Barton?
Yeah, I think additional green space in that area would be nice. Do we own a concrete saw, Ben?
I probably would get it commercially done.
Oh, okay. So it wouldn't add significantly to the cost to create a hole through the sidewalk, would it?
No.
Okay.
But do you want the raised flower bed? Do you want the, like, Brock Street?
I suggest that, why don't I set up a meeting with Daryl, and I'll come back with a report, okay? So,
Good.
you'll make that
I'll
motion?
move that motion.
Yeah. Jack, that's why you're one of my favorites. Okay. Next item we have up, oh, I'm sorry, all in favor? Carried. Says general, okay, next up is report to committee, report PWO 3618 of Ben Kester, Director of Public Works and Operations, re the spruce tree beside the CIBC Bank. Councillor Barton?
Yeah, I support taking the lights off that. I think the downtown looks really good right now, and, so, I think we could sacrifice that.
Okay, we have a motion, all in favor? Carried. Next item, report PWO 3718 of Ben Kester, Director of Public Works and Operations, re Brock Street Culvert Parking. Mayor Malloy.
I'll move the recommendation.
Okay. Comment, or you're gonna vote? Comment, Councillor Barton?
Yeah, my only question is the 10 hours of parking. I wonder if we should limit that a little bit further, just to keep the people that are gone all day parking a little bit further from our commercial area, just to allow more customer parking. Maybe down to 6? Would you support that friendly amendment, Mayor Malloy?
I'm not quite sure what sort of impact that would have on it. I don't think it's not, the parking downtown isn't just for shoppers, there's employees too, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't, no, I don't think so. I think 10 hours is appropriate, but I don't think it's just for a 2-hour shopper.
No, it certainly is, sorry, may I speak?
Of course, yeah.
So, it's certainly not just for the shoppers, but, but if we are, this is gonna be a tough year for our downtown businesses. I think anything that we can do to make it easier for people to get in and out of their shops and keep open parking, I think is good. I would balance that with staff wanting to park reasonably close to their place of employment. But that's why I think 6 hours would maybe be better than 10.
Councillor Hyatt?
Delegate what is commuter parking and what is just, stop and go parking? Like, would we have to get into a whole range of signage, or can we designate an area that this is designed for commuters alone? You understand what I mean? You're mentioning the arena here, and I guess the goal is to prevent people that are parking for 10 hours using up the downtown parking. That's where I think you're going with this, correct? So can we create an education program to say, okay, if you're a commuter, you're using the GO bus or whatever, that you park in a designated zone rather than just kind of park where you like, and free up the parking, I think, that you're talking about for, customers that are shopping in the downtown, or, going to the bank or whatever they're doing, right? So
It's not so much the commuter parking that bothers me, it's the owners of the buildings that are at their stores for 8 to 10 hours a day. If you go down to 8 or 6, then they have to go out and move their car. And it's always been 10. We've never had a problem with 10. So, that would be my recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, without the friendly amendment, to keep it at 10 hours. All in favor of that motion? That motion is carried. Next item, report PWO 3818 of Ben Kester, Director of Public Works and Operations, re-maintenance on unopened roads with existing residents. What is council's wish on this? Comments, concerns, questions? Mayor Malloy, then Councillor Beach.
It's so tough. I know sometimes residents look at these and they say, well, this is such a waste, why aren't we doing something with them? But at the same time, to go and maintain all of the road allowances that we have is just so, it creates that minimum maintenance standard that is so expensive and may not be necessary either. So, I would move the recommendation that we leave them be and not maintain them.
Councillor Beach, and then Councillor Ballinger.
I agree with the mayor. We can't that we'd be taking over so much. It would be incredible. And, you know, if you do for one, you have to do for all. So I think we should just keep it the way that it is.
Councillor Ballinger?
I concur with what's been said. You know, it's different if somebody was told that it was going to be opened up or is going to be maintained, but those people that bought down there know it's not an open road allowance. So I think once you start doing something, look out. There's no end to it. So I agree with the recommendation.
Okay, we have a sorry, Councillor Hyatt and Councillor Barton. Sorry, Dave.
You mentioned that there are agreements with specific owners on this. Can that not be something that every owner that's adjacent to these roads should have to have somehow on their title of their property? In other words, you are aware that this is not a maintained road, something of that nature?
I can look into that.
Can you look at that?
Yeah. The agreements that we have,
because I think if you're moving from Toronto, the expectation is if there's a road in front of your house, that someone is going to maintain that road, and if they know ahead of time that that's not the case, that might be better off for us. Also, when these roads were put in, was there any intent to make them go anywhere, or were they just farm roads, or what's the deal?
I suspect years and years ago, Wagner's Lake was a cottage area, and these were just cottage roads, and that's how they've evolved. People over the years have converted from cottages to living there full-time.
But I think as time goes on and these properties change hands, again, the expectation is there that it's a road, it's a municipal road, you're going to plow it, you're going to pave it, you're going to grade it, whatever. So I think that needs to be clear from the get-go.
Councillor Barton?
I don't know about all of you, but I hear constantly, I pay so much tax. A garbage truck comes, you know, every 2 weeks. I don't even have a street light. You know, the plows plow my road. I hear that all the time. In this case, for these residents that I have, we don't plow the roads. There's giant potholes that bury their cars. You know, if you think of Pilkey Road down on Wagner's Lake, you could hardly get a regular car through there. So, I understand that we can't do it all at once, but, you know, Sandy Hook at one point was a dirt road. Jonathan Street, when I was growing up, was a dirt road. The 6th concession was a dirt road. I think we should have a path to making these roads passable for our residents. And I understand there's costs involved, but I think my residents deserve better than this, where, hey, when you bought the place, there was a pothole in front of it, it'll be there forever, and just get bigger. And then even the tree that fell across this doesn't address that. We have one of our trees fall across a road that we own that people have to get through, and our residents have to take out their chainsaws and clear it and deal with it. Again, this doesn't feel right to me. I'm aware of the costs, but I think there should be a path to solving this. And obviously I disagree with the majority of council on it, which is standard.
Mayor O'Connor. Sorry, Mayor Malloy.
Mayor O'Connor, wow.
There's a flashback.
Wow, there is a flashback. I think, though, that there is a provision to do that, Councillor Barton, and that is bring the road up to the township standards, and then we'll maintain it. That's the arrangement we have with these people. If you do in fact have an open road allowance beside you, bring it up to township standards, and we'll maintain it. But that's the way we've done all of our roads. So, in this situation, that's the arrangement. So, if they'd like to bring it up to standards, and I don't know anyway, that's bring it up to our standards. We'll take the road over and maintain it. That's.
Councillor Barton?
But, again, you look at the 6th concession, was it the residents who widened it and paved it? So let me pick another one. But the majority of our roads were funded from the taxpayers. And I'd like to see a way that we can not make the road 66 feet wide, because it's a small little cottagey area. When I think of my cottage up in Haliburton, when I bought it, it wasn't paved. At one point, probably a decade before I purchased, they didn't plow the road in the winter. But as there was more need of the community, as more people were living there full time, they increased their levels of service to serve the public that were paying their taxes. And I think there's a balance. And I understand we can't do it all at once, but places where we have fairly highly dense populations that live there full-time. I think there should be a path to getting these things, at least the big potholes and the trees cleared from over the road.
Thank you, Councillor. We do have a motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Unfinished business?
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. I guess I'll direct this to Ben. At the cenotaph, we have, and Ben, you put them in, was two little spotlights at the base of it. As I walk through the town at night, and I'm impressed with the Sam Sharp statue, but I'm not impressed in how dark it is there. I don't think anybody would graffiti it, at least I would hope not because of the significance. But we do have an electrical hookup there. I just wonder we couldn't put a small spotlight. Maybe that has to go to Sam Sharp committee, but it's dark there. It's dark, and that statue you put there is a focal point now.
The committee's already talked to an electrician to do that.
That answered the question. Thank you.
Yeah, they do plan to light it, I just was informed. And my apologies to Councillor Beach, I missed your report. Report PWO 0418 of Pamela Beach, Councillor Ward 1, re-need for four-way stops at Concession 4 and the third concession in Wag Road. Who would like to speak to this? Councillor Hyatt.
Yeah, I believe Mr. Kester has a traffic engineer looking at Dominion Street. Maybe we could add this to that list. I don't think we want to arbitrarily stop up a stop sign without any kind of criteria. So maybe, Mr. Kester, could you add that to that study?
Council already gave me direction to have them look at the fourth and the third at Wag Road. Yeah. So that's in the process.
It's done a couple weeks ago.
It's already underway?
It's already in process.
It's already being looked at.
Is that what you're going to say? Okay.
Thank you.
So what would Council like to do with Councillor Beach's report? Mayor Malloy.
I think we'll just receive it since we've already made the request to staff, so there's no point in doing that. I'll just receive it.
You have a motion, all in favor? That motion is carried. Under other business, I do have another report. Report to committee, report PWO 4018 of Ben Kester, Director of Public Works and Operations, re-grass cutting at 199 John Harvey Street. What would Council like to do? Who would like to speak to it? Councillor Hyatt. I was looking right at you.
I agree with Mr. Kester's report. It is quite steep there. If you've been over to that location, you'll know what I'm talking about. Would this have to be added to next year's budget, Ben? What's the plan to deal with it? I'm trying to figure out where your report is.
We have no plan to deal with it. If Council directs me to deal with it or cut it,
do we know how much it would be to maintain it? This will be under
probably $75 a week, likely. 50 maybe.
I mean,
yeah, but does that not also start a slippery slope where we're going to cut a bunch of them?
well, it is a slippery slope, and I'm
Literally.
trying to use
Yeah.
that. So I don't know if there's a way you could maybe price it out, but I think it's a hazard, if I can say the least.
Councillor Barton?
Now, just a question through you to Ben. The property in question, that's property that we own, correct?
I'm
Probably?
not sure. I mean, we own some of it for
Yeah.
sure, but I don't know exactly how much.
Okay, now, is there anything in our current bylaws that states that the homeowners have to cut that?
That would be a question for Mr. Grattan.
Okay.
I believe there is, but I'm not 100%
Okay.
sure.
And I'm pretty sure we don't actually have a bylaw like that states that you have to cut the boulevard in front of your property. I think we just assume that everyone will. Andre told me there wasn't. Okay. Okay. Anyway, that my statement is, if we don't have that, we probably should, just to make sure that, because this happens a little bit in town.
I guess my question then would be, how far do you take this? I have people in Glen Acres that don't want to cut their ditch. Nobody wants to cut their ditch. Do we, and they're steep. Where do we stop?
Councillor Barton?
Yeah, and does the entire town have to be manicured like that? Is the other thing. You know, I live on Sandy Hook Road, the ditch is deeper than me. I don't cut the
I got nothing.
So it's about, you know, a toast too high. Anyway, so it is something we do need to think about, you know, in the areas that we don't have curb and gutter, does it all have to be manicured? You think of Zephyr, think of the sixth concession and all that as well, so.
Councillor Hyatt?
You know, it's easy to make a blanket statement, but I think if you look at situation by situation, if it lends itself to a safety issue, then we need to deal with it, because we have partly ownership of that site, as far as I'm aware. If it's mowing, you know, a flat piece of grass in front of your house, that's a completely different thing. We're talking about a situation here that's, you know, been a hazard for quite a while, and I guess I don't know what ownership we have on that specific piece, but I'm gonna suggest that, Ben, you look at it, come back with what it would cost to maintain this thing. If we have to do it in next year's budget, or if we can find money for this year, I would recommend that we do so. And again, we deal it on a case-by-case basis. We're not making blanket statements here. We're dealing with the specific issue.
So Mayor Malloy, and then we'll come back.
I'm good, Fred.
So, Councillor Barton, one more time?
Yes. I just heard from Deb that we don't actually have a bylaw that states that you have to cut the grass in front of
We
your
do not.
property.
Okay. So what is council's wish with this report then? You're making a motion, Councillor Hyatt? And that
I
motion
make a motion to refer it back to Mr. Kester for a costing analysis.
Okay. All in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Next item on other business is I'm going to speak to. One of them is truck traffic on Mill Street. We will be getting a picture up on the screen shortly. As most of you are aware, there was an incident last week with a large truck going up Mill Street. So we really need to address this, and part of the issue that the gentleman, that's the other one, Deb, or Laura? Thank you. So that's what happened. Basically, it took the wires down. Thank you. And the resident sent this, a very concerned resident, and certainly a very valid conversation, that what happens with the wires and what's going to happen with the construction when the culvert is going on and trucks are looking for different routes. That street is signed, no trucks. There is a bylaw to that effect. One of the things that we are doing is there's at the top of Mill Street in Toronto, it's going to be right in, right out. That's it. So we won't have the issue of trucks going up and trying to turn left, going back out of town. So that will be done. I was talking to Ben this morning about this. What we're going to do is certainly have a conversation with the gentleman who sent this. Doug Moffat sent us this picture, and I'm thankful to him for that. I did say to him last night that I would mention him in council. So we're going to have a meeting with him, because these are some very valid concerns. So we're going to be looking at it, and I think that's something we want to address sooner rather than later. I'm hoping that this was a one-off, but we certainly need to address this because, you know, it's going to be one of our main thoroughfares. So that's what I just wanted to bring that up, make sure everybody is aware of that. Councillor Hyatt?
Just to ask, was this driver fined because he took that route?
I don't know that. Do you know, Ben?
I don't know. That would be up to the police.
Yeah, we wouldn't be privy
So
to
the
that
police would
information
do-
anyway.
It wouldn't be bylaw that would issue him.
No,
I believe not.
no. Police would lay the charge.
Yeah.
Maybe if we send a message that when it's signed, you don't do it. So.
And that's that's something we're gonna have to certainly revisit and look at that, because we don't want to have these problems going forward. It's going to be enough of an inconvenience without having one with the wires taken down. And I think part of that is, you know, it's more of a one-off because we haven't had the wires come down before. So let's keep an eye on that. The second item that I wanted to talk about, this is the corner of Victoria Drive and Perry Street. I know this street very, very well, as does Councillor Barton, because my daughter went to UPS and his daughter goes to UPS. We lived on Victoria Drive when we bought our first house, so I know this corner. And the issue is that there is no stop sign there. There is no sign at all. So really, you consider who has the right of way. So in speaking with Mr. Kester about this as well, this is going to be on his traffic study, where they're going to have somebody take a look at it, because I think these are the types of things that, and Councillor Barton brought this to our attention, so thank you for that. Again, because you're probably picking up your daughter. This is something we need to look at, is to make sure that we're aware of these, and until it comes up, you don't really know. So we're going to take a look at this as well and see what we can do. So that will be going back to Mr. Kester. Okay, so these were both just FYIs. With that, this is the end of Public Works. Oh, sorry, one more? We can do the active transportation? Oh. So what I'd like to do, at this point, we all have a Uxbridge Active Transformation Committee, UXACT, which I kind of like. What I would like to do is if Phil would come up and speak to it, would you like to do that? I would make a motion to bring up Phil Smith to speak to this. Sorry, Mayor Malloy?
I'd just like to make a motion to allow this to be put on the agenda right now.
Okay, we have a motion, all in favor? That motion is carried. Yeah, can I make another motion to bring Phil up to speak?
Sure.
In favor? Carried.
Phil, would you turn your mic on, Phil, please? Just hit that. Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm, so I really have nothing much to add except to say I came in with two other citizens, Trudy Ledgeham and Suzanne Kershaw. A few weeks ago we made a presentation about active transportation. Since that time we've done some work offline, but we've also met with Ingrid and with Mayor Malloy and Councillor Bryan, and we had a first, I guess, planning meeting of active transportation. We did revise an existing terms of committee that we had proposed for, or terms of reference, I'm sorry, that we had proposed for a committee. We've also done some work around bike parking in town, as well as being something that we could perhaps fit in the term of this council, because I think we all recognise that our ability to do major projects within the term of this is limited. So certainly what I would like to see is if we could form a committee with an extremely tight mandate. If the terms of reference are acceptable to council, then we can work forwards with that, and we'd certainly be happy to provide something around bike parking downtown, which is what we've discussed.
Councillor Malloy?
Through you, Councillor Bryan. Yeah, this is great. Thanks for all the work you've done on it, and the whole committee. It's fabulous. So this sort of terms of reference that you've received today, we've been through it. It's an excellent start to a great program. Did we already approve a committee of council, or did we do that yet with this committee? I don't remember what we did.
I don't believe, just a group.
Okay, all right. Would we have to approve a committee of council in order to receive this? We really need to receive it to a committee of council, wouldn't you think? Would that be appropriate? Well, that's what I mean. That's why I wondered, by appointing councillors to it, we just appoint them to a sort of an ad hoc committee, or do we have a committee of council?
Two councillors were appointed to begin the discussion around the terms of reference. What was supposed to happen next with the terms of reference for the committee was to come back to council for approval at this meeting, so that's this. And then I think council can then agree to that if they choose to, and that the committee would be formed.
And then so I'll start by making a motion to council now to approve these terms of reference as presented today.
Okay. All in favor of that motion? Okay, that motion is carried.
At this point, would I now ask that we create the committee of council? Okay. Then I'd also like to make a motion that we do in fact create the committee of council based on what exists currently, and that is, how many of us are on it? 5 of us?
5 so far.
So I'd make that motion to create a committee of council.
Okay. All in favor of that motion? That motion is carried as well.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Bill.
Okay. Thank you so much. Anytime you want to be put on the spot, Councillor Barton would like to say something.
Again, this is a long time coming. This is critical to get our residents around town, no matter what the age they are, everything from little kids on push bikes to adults with accessibility issues. I think this is critical, and thanks for taking the lead on this.
Well, thank you for coming in. I appreciate it.
Make one more comment as
Ingrid?
well. The committee, which we assumed you would create, will be back on the 18th with some recommendations in regards to bike parking and a number of other things. And Phil, I believe, will be doing that presentation on the 18th.
So this is your heads up, eh?
Yeah, we're already working on that.
I'm sure you are. Thanks very much. Thanks again. Okay. Sorry, Roger, you're first up.
Yeah, Councillor, can you tell me, please, what happened on Mr. Castor's report on the grassy slope.
Councillor Hyatt made a motion that they're gonna send it back to staffing to see
Back
what
to
our...
staff?
Back to staff to see what our costing will be.
Thank you. And your little piece there on traffic on Mill Street, did I hear you correctly to say that Toronto and Mill Street is going to be right in, right out?
Correct.
When will that...
Ben, would you like to speak to that? Maybe
Right in, right out, only when Brock Street is closed during construction.
Sorry, I wasn't make that clear.
Only when Brock Street is closed.
So it'll be one of those temporary ones, you know, that have the big, almost like, they look like pillars or flags, they're kind of bright reflective, so they will be there to direct the traffic in and out.
So that's just for the culvert?
That's correct.
Just when Brock Street is closed.
Thank you.
Because the culvert will be in certain phases, so this may be done, and it's only when Brock Street itself is gonna be closed, not for the duration of the construction. You're welcome. Any other questions from the press? Anyone? Chief, anything? Okay. I will close this meeting of Public Works and Operations and pass it off to Planning and Economic Development and Councillor Hyatt.
Thank you, Councillor Bryan. I'll call to order Planning and Economic Development Committee. Correspondence 100 from Susan Siopsis, Commissioner of Works at Region of Durham. No, Mayor Malloy.
I'll make a motion to receive it and thank them for keeping their staying ahead of it, because I think this might be really good for us.
Yeah. If I can make a suggestion that we circulate this to our local developers. There are a few, as you probably know, who are knocking at the door trying to get Phase 2 up and running. I think they need to know this information. The sooner the better. So if I can make, someone can make a motion to refer this.
I don't know, which ones would you send it to?
The big three.
The three that
I
have
think,
Phase 2 stuff?
That have
Okay.
Phase 2 lands. Yeah.
Can I also ask, while I'm at that, can I also ask a question on that?
Mhm.
I'm always concerned, it appeared even in the letter that even with these systems, they still required somehow the use of the stream, which I don't understand, because my understanding is the new technologies, you don't need the stream. You don't need, that's the whole point of doing these systems, right? But the letter seemed to imply that most of this was dependent on the use of the stream.
Because it's a large catchment area.
But it shouldn't be, these sewage
I
systems
think
shouldn't be
the
dependent on the stream,
I think
right?
it's that everything ends up going towards the Uxbridge Brook, so it's phosphorus that's generated
Yeah, it's to
within.
do, I believe it's to do with the phosphorus loading at the end. Yeah.
But the whole idea of these systems is that's not supposed to be an issue, right?
But it's, you're still in the watershed, so
Oh.
eventually you will end up there, so.
Right. Anyway,
Councillor Barton.
Yeah, my notes also state that, you know, this is a welcome addition. It'll allow us to continue to grow, maybe with less intensification, because we'll need space for the treatment plants. And I think we should look to Windance and their irrigation system as a way to spread this water, spread this as irrigation on either farmland or the lawns, to make sure that we can spread this out and keep the phosphorus out of the brook.
I agree, the region needs to be looking at various alternatives here moving forward, so. Can I just ask Ingrid, where are we on the Phase 1 intensification study?
Still working on it. I think the thought is that it should be ready sometime this summer.
This summer? So this council will be dealing with it?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Can I get a motion on this, please? You have one? All right. Just to receive? Will you make a friendly amendment to circulate this to the big three developers?
To the Phase 2 developers.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, 101, Region of Durham to Minister of Municipal Affairs. Questions? Mayor Malloy.
I'll
sorry.
just receive that.
Motion to
Councillor Hyatt.
receive. Questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 102, Director of Planning. This is regarding the source water protection. Councillor Barton.
Just a motion to receive.
Excuse me, motion to receive. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 103, this is the monitoring of growth trends. Questions? Councillor Bryan, motion to receive. Councillor Ballinger?
Yes, Councillor Hyatt. Just to bring things up to date, if people looked at this and looked at it, what's happened in 4 years?
Not much.
And a lot of people don't realize that the region itself in 4 years has taken on 27,000 people.
Except here, yeah.
Now, on the land mass alone, the northern communities, Brock, Skugog, and Uxbridge, have 51.7% of the land mass. And these are the numbers, just so people realize. In 4 years, 590 people have come to Uxbridge. 590 in the whole township. In Brock, 215 people have come. In Skugog, they're down 135 people from 4 years ago. So when you look at all this, the north has grown in 4 years a total of 670 people out of 27,000.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. When you do the numbers and you count them, and then you look at the housing part of it, how many houses have come in Uxbridge in 4 years? 345. How many in Skugog? 175, and Brock's the same, 175. So Uxbridge has had as many new houses as the other two northern communities. So when you look at this whole thing, we haven't grown hardly at all. As much as people say the traffic's a lot more, and this is happening and that's happening, the northern communities have not grown. I just thought I'd bring that up.
They just like Uxbridge better, that's all.
Yeah.
But you're right, and if it continues like this, there will be some challenges funding, as you know, our budget every year. So you have to have some growth. I don't mean rampant growth, I mean some growth, so consistently. Can I get a motion on this, please? Did you make a motion already? Did you? Councillor Bryan to receive, all in favor. Thank you, carried. 104, Deputy Clerk, Town of Halton Hills. Growing the Greenbelt. Kind of speaks to a similar topic. Mayor?
Just make a motion to receive this.
Receive, okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Reports to committee, DS 2418 from Amelia. You want to come on up, Amelia? This is C of A on the Township of Uxbridge Community Improvement Plan. You have a question, Councillor Beach?
More of a comment. I was just
I would
shocked.
take those as well. So.
I was just shocked that there was only 2.
Well, as of last week, it's 3 now.
Oh, 3.
Yeah.
Who's number 3?
Viper.
Okay. No, it was just very interesting that there wasn't more jump at this opportunity.
I totally agree, Councillor Malloy, Mayor Malloy.
I think I know there's only 2 and 3 now, but you know that's better than what we've had in the last 5 or 6 years. So at least it's getting out there that we have this CIP, and it's good news that someone's using it. So I'm sure that will spread throughout downtown. I'm sure we'll see a lot more. So I'm glad we're at least getting some applications.
Well, the idea is to create a, your peer pressure thing. If they're doing it, we want to do it too.
And this gets the ball rolling. It's great.
That's the whole thing. I just had a question to you, Amelia. Did we include garden sheds in the whole scheme of things, or are they just asking for that?
They're just asking for that.
And that kind of thing?
I mean, it's part of his plan to do that.
Okay.
So the money that we give him, it might just be directed to something else,
Just
and he'll be
something
taking
else.
care of the
Okay.
shed himself.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
That's where I was going. Any other questions?
Well, just a comment. It's interesting because there were a couple of people that were really keen on this at the very beginning of the process. And there are 2 tenants in buildings that are owned by a landlord downtown who were all over it in the beginning, and we saw absolutely nothing from them. So really it comes down to the building owner too, needing to be committed to try and move this forward, not the tenant. And in this particular case, I suspect that the building owner may have had a different opinion than the tenants had in regards to what needed to be done.
Again, I'm just surprised on the limit of uptake, although there is some. I mean, we always get snowballed by saying, that the township isn't doing anything about the downtown. Well, we're trying here, we're trying everything, incremental change is better than no change. So hopefully, when they're all done, people will say, hey, that's a great idea.
Looks good, yeah.
Councillor Barton.
Yeah, just, to let you guys know, there should be one or two more coming. I've been speaking to a building owner downtown, and he's interested, he just needs to get organized.
Yeah. It's a great program, and it's been very successful in other communities too, so I'm hoping more people take advantage of it. Okay, we have a report. What's council's wishes? Somebody make a motion, Deb? No?
Is there a motion?
There's a recommendation there. I'm trying to find what page
Yes,
it's on.
I'll make that motion. I'll move the recommendation. Okay, Debbie's just saying we need to include in that motion because...
They just brought
No,
it in
they're
on
not.
Thursday.
So it's not,
Past Thursday.
it's not there, so we need to put the two names in, if you don't...
Are you gonna have a subsequent report on the third one?
Sure, if you want me to.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think that would be great if you did.
Okay.
The recommendation with the addition of the two
It's
companies
public
that
money,
apply.
so we need to be clear.
Okay.
With the
You move the
recommendation,
recommendation for
with
those
the
two?
addition of the two company names.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried, unanimous, thank you. Okay, thanks, Amelia. Report DS 2518. Nancy, we've already talked about this, so I get a motion to receive it. Councillor Bryan, we did already? Okay, my apologies. Report CAO 918. This is reserving sewage capacity for long-term care and to amend the allocation wording for down.
Good idea.
Recommendation, questions? Councillor Bryan, did you have some?
No, I was gonna move the recommendation, but Quick Draw McGraw was up
Quick
first,
draw.
so...
Quick draw. I have a question, to Ingrid. Why did we pick 600 people? Is there a number, a reason there for
The reason we're going with 600 is the region communicates in people as opposed to
that?
units.
The units?
And,
Okay.
Initially, you had agreed to 200 units. And I think just to make sure that things don't get confused
Things
in
were
the
clear?
future, let's put it
Okay.
all into the same terminology.
So that equates basically to 200 units approximately, right? Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Any questions? No? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. CAO 1018. This is for a request from AfriCycle. We had some queries on who actually owned the land. We got that cleared up. Mayor Malloy?
I just have a quick question, and this is fine back in where they are, but I am a little concerned about the use of shipping containers. I know just coming in from the north end of town, there's a shipping container right there at the corner, and I don't know if we even permit shipping containers in town. I don't believe we do. We have one at the soccer field too, so I think we just have to be careful of some of these big red beasts lying all over our town, that's all. I'm not a big fan of them, so... I mean, it was nice at the soccer club, for example, they painted it, that made a huge difference, but I'm just not a big fan of those. Where this particular site is, it's not a big deal, we have a bunch of old trains there and stuff, so... But I'd like to know whether or not we do, in fact, permit them, and maybe I'll speak to Debbie about that after, whether we permit them, because I don't think we do, but we have to check.
But I think where this will probably be out of sight, out of mind predominantly.
Problem
Unless
with this
you're
spot,
at
yeah.
Second Wedge, that's probably the only place you'll actually see it from. Councillor Barton?
Yeah, I think we talked about it, I'm not sure if it's in the report, but AfriCycle did talk about putting a stencil on it, so it's not just a rusty shipping container, they will decorate it.
And they would be responsible if it got hit by graffiti artists?
Yeah, I
and
think
we'll
it's
see.
24 hours, right?
So- Anybody else got a question? No? Motion to support? Yeah. Councillor Barton, all in favor? Carried, thank you. We covered this one already. This was on Bagshaw, so that's done. Any unfinished business for planning? Any other business? There's nothing on the addendum here, so... Question? Yeah.
Just a question since we're under planning. We've had some discussion about this. Where are we at with Fort Victoria? And I wonder if we could ask staff what's happening with it. We were going to have work start there in May. Well, in
Did you
April,
want a
May.
verbal update, or do you want a report?
Verbal's fine.
Yeah.
Verbal's fine. Yeah, now it's June. I'm just curious where we're at with that facility.
Who wants to be first?
Yeah, about a couple of weeks ago, I spoke to the owner. I didn't speak to him. I emailed the owner, and he said that I'd be getting the final drawings in May. He said he was a week behind. So just this morning, I was going to email him to give me a status, but I haven't. So other than he was supposed to submit the drawings by the end of May, and he hasn't. And again, he said he's a week behind, so I'm hoping that I'm gonna get something this week.
Through you, so you're pretty comfortable that we might get this rolling?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Bryan.
Is it possible that you could prepare a report for us to bring back next week with a possible timeline from him so we have something in writing?
Yeah.
Because I would like to have something on the record, because this has dragged on for long
Right.
enough, and certainly when my wife and I walk by there on Saturday and Sunday mornings, it looks awful. Right, the water, the fences is leaning in, the bullfrogs that are in there, it's unbelievable. So I would like an update. Thank you, Brian.
So
Sorry.
like an update on the building permit application.
Where we are, when he thinks he's gonna start,
Okay.
all the pertinent information, because this has been forever.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Ballinger, do you have a
Just,
question?
not to deal with that, just to bring you up to date, unfinished business. I reported a couple of weeks ago about, the Golden Horseshoe Food and Farming Alliance coming to Uxbridge to different, regions to visit Helia Spice. My part of it is done. I've talked with them over there and made arrangements. When, Nancy Rutherford, left this morning, she was heading over there to meet with them and have a tour of the facility. So it looks like on September the 25th, if all goes well, we will have all the regions here for a tour.
Thank you, that's great news. Any other business for planning? If not, I will open it up to press. Any questions? None? Everybody's happy? That's good. Crowd? Mr. Rona, do you have any questions? No? You're still with us? Okay, good. I will adjourn planning and pass it to Mayor Malloy for admin. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. I'll call this meeting of Administration Committee to order. Under correspondence, item number 105, Jeff Grant from the Uxbridge Bulldogs. Councillor Barton.
I'd like to support this.
Great. So we are gonna
Make it a
consider-
municipally significant event.
municipally, yeah, right, okay. Any questions, Councillor Hyde?
Do we not usually ask them to come in and do a delegation? We do? Debbie?
Go ahead,
Through you,
Debbie,
Mr.
if
Chair.
required.
Actually, once we finish this, I was gonna ask that very question. So our policy in the past, directed by council, was that when it comes to requesting approval for liquor licenses on township property, that they come in and make a deputation.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
Given the tight turnaround on this, we didn't, but there are others that are coming in the near future. I believe there's maybe one or two in the next meeting and so on. Do you still want me to do that? I know sometimes questions come up where you want to ask, and so I just wanted to get direction on whether or not you still wanted me to continue to have them come in. If it's for a baseball tournament, that kind of thing. Like, we are, like, booked for the 11th and almost booked, I believe, for the 18th as well. And some of them are this kind of thing. So I just wanted some direction on that.
So when they contacted you, did you make them aware that it was advisable for them to come in? Or,
I believe
mandatory, but...
Catalina had contacted, this was a last-minute receipt, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm looking at the date here, so...
And I had asked that Catalina contact them. I don't know what the result was. I wasn't here the day the agenda went out, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. Could we tentatively approve it pending an appearance? I mean,
I don't know if it's a requirement that they come in. It's been customary, but is it a requirement that they come in?
I'm just thinking committee may have questions, right? So
Well, that's what I'm saying is basically the policy was directed by council that when people are requesting these kinds of things, they do come in.
Okay.
I'm not aware that it is a requirement of AGCO, but
Okay.
it has been customarily council's policy.
Okay, council, so what would you like to do with this? Councillor Ballinger?
I'm fine with as long as we have in this building the proof of their insurance.
Okay.
Through Mr. Chair, that actually goes through Karen when she does all her booking stuff. It doesn't come to me.
So we do have a motion, Councillor Barton, is that right?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, how about I change my motion just a little bit and say on this one, on a one-off, because of the tight turnaround, that I support this, but moving forward, that people asking for a liquor license on township property to be named a municipally significant event, they come to council.
They do a delegation. Do two separate, Dave, okay?
Okay, fair enough.
So let's do the first, did you want to speak on the first one, Councillor Bryan?
I did. I know these guys, I used to play on that team, so I know what they are, I know what the issue is. So if need be, I can certainly call up Jeff and get all the relevant information. I think I agree that it's because it's a tight timeline, that I think we should do the one-off. And I think that going forward, I get the sense of expediency, however, I think they should come in so we have these questions.
Great, so let's deal with the first motion. That was Councillor Barton's first motion, which was just to support it. I don't remember what it was. Is that what it was? Okay. All those in favor? Carried, great. Now the second motion, Councillor Barton.
Yeah, the second
Will
motion...
be to make sure it's specific to this event, right?
Wait, can you repeat that again?
What is the second motion you're going to make?
So the second motion is moving forward that we have people come in and make a deputation before we give them approval to have a municipally significant event on township property.
Okay, any questions on that motion? All's in favor? Carried. Alrighty, this is correspondence 106 from Christopher Green, the Standard newspaper, permission to record audio video during council committee meetings. Clearly, do we have a policy now that says that you can't? Okay. Except that we do, but that's us. Okay. Councillor Barton.
Yeah, I spoke to Mr. Green about this, and I support it. We're already recorded. It just allows him to get this information early, where our YouTube sometimes takes 3 or 4 days to get posted. So I have no issues with this.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor. Okay. Debbie?
I guess, so as far as direction from staff, are we exempting him from the procedural bylaw? We're not suggesting that we amend it to allow anyone to do it? You're just, in this particular case, you're going to allow the exemption?
Is that what you're suggesting, Councillor
Sure,
Barton?
yeah, I'll suggest that.
Councillor Hyatt and Councillor Bryan.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. The other one was, is this an ongoing thing, or are we talking about a one-off exemption here?
I think it's, I would suggest it's probably this term of council. I presume we can go that route.
I mean, it's not so much, I guess, from council's perspective, because we know we're on camera, but if you have anybody out there, it opens up a whole other hornet's nest, as you probably know, as to, you know, you have to get someone's permission to take their photograph and all that kind of thing. So I'm not clear, Debbie, on how we would handle that. I have no objection to the concept, but you understand, if someone walks in and
I think we've done the
they could be
appropriate...
on film or on audio.
I think we've done the appropriate signage, though, as you come in the door. It suggests that if you're coming in here, you will be filmed.
Does that cover us, I guess, is my question.
It's recorded.
It would.
So it's advised in the public.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So do you want to do that and give the... Councillor Bryan, sorry.
So I guess kind of along the same lines of what Deb was saying, so does that mean a member of the audience can now do it? Or is it just we're making the one exemption for the paper?
I think the motion is just for the paper at this time. And can we say till the end of the term of council?
Okay.
Okay.
Just because I know we've had issues come up where people are trying to record and we're telling them they can't.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's just going to be that. So then if, let's say, the Cosmos wanted to do it, they would have to come. If the Times Journal wanted to do it, they would have to come forth again.
Yep.
So it's just, this is just specific for the Standard.
Or you could change it to media. I mean... Okay. Debbie's saying that would mean an amendment to the procedural bylaw. So go ahead, Councillor Barton.
Yeah. How about we, I'll do another friendly amendment, that we allow the Times Journal, so Metroland Media, the Uxbridge Cosmos, and the Skugog Standard, all permission to record for the remainder of this term of council.
Would that be all right, Debbie? Okay, that's good. Great. Any questions on that motion? All's in favor? Carried. Alrighty, this is correspondence 107, Patrick Bryan. This is a request to host a movie night in Elgin Park. What would you like to do with that, council? Any comments? Councillor Hyatt.
I'm just curious, is Mr. Bryant paying the rental for the park?
I think it
Anybody
said
know?
that. That's awful cheap, though, wasn't it?
It says $81 here,
Yeah.
is that what we charged?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
Jeez.
Yep, so
That's
he's paying.
my only question. I have no problem with him doing it. That's just, is he paying the actual cost?
He is, because he's happy to pay that, it says.
Well, if there's garbage and stuff left over, I'd say
He has a
$81 gonna
$500
cover it?
He has a $500 damage
That's
deposit.
what the
so,
500 is?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What would you like to do with this, council? Councillor Bryan?
I'll make a motion to support that. I'm fine with that. It's in my ward.
Any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. This is item 108, Harry S. Archibald, the road allowance, availability on 7559 Durham Road, 23. What would you like to do with this, council? Councillor Barton.
Let's try to figure out the location of this. Is this
Weird.
on the east side of Lake Ridge Road? Okay, so just at the tracks there? Yeah. Okay,
Even though it's on the east side of Lake Ridge?
okay. Yeah, I didn't know there was a road allowance in there, but,
Maybe we could just refer this to staff and see if we get some
Yeah, that would
information
be
back
my,
on it.
my recommendation.
Make that motion, Councillor Hyatt. Any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. This is 109, Matthew and Jillian Meager re-hosting a Walk of Honor of Lily to raise money for the Leukemia Lymphoma. That's this weekend, isn't it? Or Friday night? Yeah. Any questions on this one? Councillor Barton, no?
no,
Support?
just support it.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor
Are they
Hyatt.
asking for financial support?
That's
here?
my question. Are they looking for some,
I have no problem with them doing the walk, but I think we have to refer it to golf if we're going to support anything. That would be...
we probably
Yeah,
still
but
could...
I can't make that motion to report.
We could still refer it to golf, though, to the golf fund, though, whether they do or don't. It can be after the event, it's not that...
Yeah, I'll make that motion, Mr.
Great.
Chair.
Councillor Bryan's made a motion, so a friendly amendment to refer that to the golf, or Councillor Barton, refer it to the golf fund?
Yeah, so I'll add that.
You okay with that, Debbie? Got it? Any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. Reports to committee, AC 318 under Grattan. This is the, naming policy for the new animal shelter. Councillor Hyatt.
I don't remember us not saying that we couldn't name the whole thing. Maybe I need to be stand corrected. I guess through you to Andre. Is that actually in the policy that we can't name the entire facility?
The direction that I got was that we don't have a corporate policy that says that
Allows us to name it.
allows us to name entire facilities. So that's the and
what-
it also is a bit complicated with it being a shared facility for Scugog and Uxbridge as
That's,
well.
yeah, that's the other piece, right?
And
So-
Debbie tells me that's part of her report that she submitted.
So what's this thing going to be called? The Uxbridge Scugog Animal Shelter, or the Scugog Uxbridge Animal Shelter?
It'll be
or
Uxbridge Scugog, for sure.
Or the North Durham Animal Shelter? I mean, no matter which way you slice it, someone's not gonna be happy, because their name doesn't come first, right? So how are we gonna deal with that, I guess? Alphabetical order? Alphabetical?
I don't think so.
I don't agree with that one,
No.
so.
Well, it's called Nexus. I mean, it's the new Uxbridge Scugog, right? I know, but
So
I'm just saying,
So,
everybody knows
just to build on that, if I'm supporting the lobby,
The same name, the new animal shelter of Uxbridge Scugog. The current,
so,
the current shelter is the Uxbridge Scugog Animal Shelter.
Great.
so if
Yeah,
I'm
so it's-
pitching this
It's already
to-
in that order, so
if I'm
we're gonna
pitching-
keep that order.
If I'm pitching a cat room to a prospective, investor, what do I pitch it as? Okay, you get your Joe Blow cat room at the Uxbridge Scugog Animal Shelter? Is that?
Correct, yes, the Uxbridge Scugog Animal Shelter.
Okay.
The cat room will be named after you.
So if they ask, I wanna support the whole building, we can say, no, I'm sorry,
Right.
we're not, you're not able to do
Unfortunately,
that.
no.
That's where we're at here, right now. Councillor Barton?
Yeah, just clarification through you to Deb. So it's part of our corporate policy that we can't name entire buildings?
No,
Go ahead, Debbie.
it's not, through you, Mr. Chair. We don't have a policy about naming buildings and that kind of thing, so any of the, that we've named a couple of parks, I believe, there's been an agreement that we've entered into, there's been a particular time period that we've allotted to, but as far as any of our buildings, we brought forward a corporate naming policy back, a year and a half ago, maybe, and council just tabled it, they didn't want to do anything with it, so in terms of going out and naming a building, we don't have any policy on that. And when council approved the original fundraising campaign, it was in there that it would remain the Uxbridge Scugog Animal Shelter. And the difficulty with this is because it is shared between us and Scugog, I think it might be a bit of an issue trying to name the building, and that was the agreement by the both councils, is that it would just remain the same.
And I think we could probably take put this report through. And if somebody comes along and says, we'll give you $500,000, stick our name on it, we might think about that. So we'll deal with it if it does come up, I think, in the future, if it's available. If something like that came along. All right, so what we'd like to do with this? Do we have a motion on this one yet, Debbie? No motion yet? Anybody like to make a motion? To move the recommendation? Councillor Barton? All those in favor? Carried.
A follow-up question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Does this preclude us, Debbie, from naming any other township facility? Or would we have to create a policy in order to do so? I'm just thinking about the new pool up at the Uxbridge Fields. If
Through
someone-
Mr. Chair, I think
If
because we
Mr.
don't
Rona
have...
wants to cut us a check for $5 million,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to say it's...
Me too, I'm in.
It's
Yeah.
the Gary Rona pool at Uxfield, so, you know. Anyway, I think we need to start looking at these things, because if there is money out there, why wouldn't we take advantage of it, so...
Through you, Mr. Chair, in answer to your question, Councillor Hyatt, I don't think it precludes us from naming anything. I think basically the way council has, or the township has handled it is, it's on a case-by-case basis. In this particular case, like I said in my report, the agreement was both from Uxbridge and Scugog that it would remain the same. If something happens that we wanted to call the new pool the Debbie LaRue Pool, then council can deal with that when the time comes.
Well, get out your checkbook, Deb, and we'll
Yeah,
talk.
as long as you got $500,000. Okay, so we already moved this one. All right, this is, report AC 418 of Andre Grattan. This is, first quarter report. Questions or comments? Motion received by Councillor Beach. All those in favor? Carried. Another report from Andre. This is, Bylaw Services first quarter report. Motion received by Councillor Beach. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Is there any unfinished business? Oh, what, do I have anything on the addendum? I don't think so. One item on the addendum. This is correspondence from, thank you, Andre, from Mayor Don Mitchell, Town of Whitby, regarding the move of the Highway 412 tolls. Regional Councillor Ballinger?
Support it.
Yep.
What's happening now with the 412 being a toll road, Whitby are getting the trucks coming down through the center of Whitby
Yeah.
and going, like,
There's nowhere else to go. Can't
there
go wrong.
is no toll road that is east of from the 404 to the or from the 407 down the, like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. Councillor Barton and Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, I'm with Jack on this. Yeah, we've got the 404, which is paid for by the province. We've got
Oh, right.
403, 427. And now that we've got something in Durham Region, we have to pay for it?
Yeah.
Which just jams traffic into our
Yeah.
Durham regional cities and makes us pay the bill. It makes no sense.
Bad planning, for sure. Councillor Hyatt?
I seem to recall we had correspondence on the agenda maybe a year ago. I don't know if it was from Pickering or Ajax or somebody down there with a very similar request that they wanted that toll removed. I don't know, Debbie, if you could pull that up. Does it have any effect on this at all, or no? We just support the same request? You don't recall it? I do. Maybe I was dreaming. And I think the answer that we got back was this highway wouldn't be built if they knew they weren't going to toll it. That's my recollection of it. Maybe somebody can refresh my memory.
But they perhaps didn't consider some of the
Road was being
consequences.
funded by the toll. That's what the response was, and I think council supported it and came from the Ministry of Transportation in regards to that.
Okay, so we'd like to, we have a motion to support this by Regional Councillor Ballinger. Go ahead.
One of the things that Whitby's asking, they're asking to the east of us now, to the south, is this election coming up now. They're asking all the candidates about this 412. Why are we paying tolls on this? What's your platform? Are you going to get rid of it, or what are you going to do? So. Pardon me?
Who do we respond to with our support with this?
Is there? I haven't got it in front of me, Deb. But is there a list of people they send it out to?
There is. It's all on Mayor Mitchell's letter.
Okay,
So it's local Whitby and Oshawa provincial candidate, Durham Regional Chair, and Gary Lynn has the Durham Regional Mayor's member of Whitby Council, and I think there's some more. But
Yep, just send it to them.
Yeah.
Just please.
And, why don't we copy the media too?
Certainly. Great, all in favor? Carried. I have one more report. This is report 3418 from Catalina. This is regarding our record storage at the police station. Any comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Barton.
Yeah, I think this would be a great opportunity to hire a company to digitize as many of these as possible. It makes no sense to me to have something that we have to hire a truck to go and pick up. And then we're in jeopardy. If something happens to that facility, gets flooded or fire or whatever, those records are gone forever. We digitize them, we can keep them off-site, multiple locations. Oh, they are?
Debbie's saying we already have digitized, so why would we keep them?
Why are we keeping them?
Do we have to keep them? 700 boxes? That's...
So generally what we've done, we are moving backwards. So within the last couple of years, we've really turned our focus to digitizing everything. The program we have is called Laserfiche, and we've had it for, well, before I started even. But unfortunately, it was really never utilized to the extent it should be. So we've really started to push in moving backwards from today and going back and digitizing all these old records. But up until that point, like some of them are really ancient. They're really difficult to digitize. Some of them are permanent for the most part, most of them over there are permanent records. There's a cycle that we go through depending on what our bylaw requires us to keep and the timelines around that. So we do get rid of a number of boxes every year. However, some of them are permanent records and we have to keep them. So even though we do digitize, they're kind of backup records for us to keep. There certainly will have to be some house cleaning that goes along with this, for sure, by all departments, but yeah, that's kind of where we're going with it. So.
I think the region they don't keep anything past 1975 now, and 1976. Anything earlier than that, they don't keep it anymore in hard copy. That was my experience. I tried to get plans for my septic system at home, and they said they don't keep them anymore. So, do we have a date? Do we have a number of years we go back? Or
well,
what's
like I said, so it depends on, in our bylaw, there's some that are marked as permanent. There's some that we keep for 7 years, plus one. There's some that we only have to keep it for a year, plus one. So those are, those are our schedules for retention.
So what would you like to do with this report, Councillor Barton?
Just more clarification on that. So when we're keeping these records, can they not be kept in a digital format? It's actually more secure.
So that's what I'm saying. We are moving backwards from today back through those old records, but some of them, like minutes and things like that, they have to be kept. They're permanent.
But
so
can they be kept in a digital format?
They are, but we also have to keep a record of them, like the hard copy records of them. But some of the records, because they are so old, they're just very difficult to scan, and some of them are too big to scan, so some of them we do have to keep regardless. But we are trying to definitely get rid of what we can.
Okay. Sorry to keep going on this.
Go ahead.
So it's not going to ever get any cheaper than it is today to digitize these records. I'm sure there's companies that will do this, so it doesn't have to be our staff that do it. Just instead of storing it, why don't we digitize, the 90% of it or whatever we can, and then we won't have long-term costs of storing boxes.
I think Debbie's saying we have digitized it all, just some of it we have to keep a hard copy of. So it's probably time that we go through some of those hard copies and decide what we can pitch, because there's got to be a lot we can.
Yeah.
Some clearly there's some we have to keep, yeah.
Yeah, no, and I misunderstood. I thought we hadn't done them all yet. That's what I understood.
Were digitized for the ones they could digitize. I think she said there's some that were too big that wouldn't fit, that they couldn't digitize, but essentially we've digitized everything on a microfiche system. That's where it is.
Okay.
Because that was a system that was available at the time, maybe, and our summer students have been doing that for the last 4 or 5 years, or maybe more.
Okay.
Okay, so what would you like to do with this report? Councillor Hyatt?
Yeah, I'm just reading the recommendation through you to Debbie. So you're asking for, you're going to proceed to contact them all, or are you going to narrow it down to one from this interview process? Is that the plan?
We'll probably narrow it down to the one. and then we'll bring back for a recommendation to
So
enter
there's
into
a
an agreement.
subsequent report coming.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. I'll move the recommendation.
Great, thank you, Councillor Hyatt. Any other questions? All's in favor? Carried. Any unfinished business? Any other business? Press? Any questions? Mr. Varley?
This will be slightly difficult. Referring to my colleague's letter seeking permission to record council meetings. Council meetings right now are video recorded and shown at some point on YouTube. Who owns the copyright of those videos? Does it go to YouTube, or does it remain in possession of council?
I'm not sure. Do you know, Debbie? They're ours.
Your copyright. So in
Is it
other
a
words,
copyright? I can't imagine it being a copyright if it was on YouTube, but, do you want us to, maybe we'll get an answer for that. Can we look into that, Debbie, and maybe get an answer? We'll have to get you an answer on that one and see.
my understanding would be that you couldn't take a video of council from YouTube and chop it up in any way or edit it in any way. You have to show it the way it is, am I right?
Well, if it's on YouTube, that's just public. You can do really whatever you want to it, I think.
Yeah.
Who's to stop you? To publish it afterwards, there may be some issues with that. And depending on who you show it to, I don't know. We'll have to look into that. Okay, Roger? I know Debbie's done some work on it already, but we'll come back with an answer for it.
So I just have a Google answer, if you will take that. No?
I'd
We
rather
can't
wait,
really-
I'd rather wait till Debbie gives us an
Yeah, no
answer, if you
problem.
don't mind, Dave, just to make sure we're clear. Very clear. Okay, Roger, we'll have to get back to you on that one, okay, if you don't mind, and we'll...
Okay.
He wants it, what his question is, he wants to know is there a copyright on our YouTube videos, and who owns those videos? Oh,
I actually have a little knowledge on that, if you want it.
sure, if you could speak into the mic, it'd be great.
Yeah, if you guys create the video through the city, it's owned by the city with a copyright, no matter if it's on YouTube.
Right.
You can cut up the video into
Uh-huh.
sections under fair use law,
Yeah.
but it can only be a certain amount, and they have to credit it back to you.
Credit the video back, but you don't have to get
Yeah.
permission. No permissions
Well,
are required.
Well, it's good practice to ask for permission, obviously,
Uh-huh.
especially if you're a corporation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it is still our property.
So further to that then, Mayor, what did council decide on this request? I didn't quite get
We decided that, the three of you would all have permission to videotape our council meetings. And therefore, according to, what's just been said, then you would own those copies. Video or audio.
Okay, but that license to record you guys is only extended to the members of the media, nobody else.
Actually, we specified the three of you.
I'm sorry?
The three papers we specified, not all media, to the end of this term of
And
council.
what about Radio 105.5?
They're not included. Any other questions? No? Gary, no? Alrighty, where are we going to now, Debbie? We're gonna adjourn, and we will be, going into camera. Aren't we? Well, we're recessing, and then we'll go into camera, and we'll be back. Thank you, everybody. We have to make a motion to go in camera. Somebody like to make that motion? Councillor Bryan. All those in favor? Carried.